Hello everyone.
Welcome to the U Sports community.
A community striving to enhance youth sports.
I'm Taylor Medic.
I'm Sean Connaughton.
And I'm Matt Maw.
Thank you for joining us today. The U Sports community is proudly presented by Nuance Hockey and Maw Golf.
Nuance Hockey provides detail-driven on- and off-ice development in the Edmonton area. For more information, please visit nuance.hockey.
Maw Golf provides elite coaching for golfers of all skill levels at the Millwoods Golf Club in Edmonton.
This episode is produced by Nick Hussey of Hussey Media, and hydration is provided by Earthwater. We are very excited today to have Kael Mouillierat joining the community for today's podcast episode.
Kael was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and played his minor hockey with the Knights of Columbus organization. Kael and I were fortunate to not only be teammates for a number of these years, but to have also played on some very successful teams together.
Through junior high, Kael was a classmate of Sean and I at the Donnan School and Hockey Program, the first of its kind in Edmonton. After his minor hockey career, Kael went on to play for the Drayton Valley Thunder of the Alberta Junior Hockey League for 2 years before playing 4 years of NCAA Division I hockey for the Minnesota State Mankato Mavericks.
After his collegiate years, he immediately signed with the Idaho Steelheads of the East Coast Hockey League in 2010, where he spent time between the ECHL and American Hockey League. He made his NHL debut in the 2014-15 season with the New York Islanders, scoring his first NHL goal. The following year, he spent time with the Pittsburgh Penguins during the team's run to a Stanley Cup title. At the start of the 2016 season, Kael hopped over the pond to begin a 7-year stretch, beginning in Sweden for 1 season and Germany for the final 6 of his pro career.
Kael is a proud husband and father, and after retiring in 2023, he is now an active hockey development coach in Edmonton. This season, Kael and I are both coaching at the Vimy Ridge Hockey Academy, and it has been a real privilege to be on the ice again with him. Kael, we really appreciate you taking the time to be here, and welcome to the U Sports community. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, boys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Well, it's a podcast about youth sports and the journey for people going up through the ranks as a kid and into their adult years. But we'll start off. Kael, I want to ask you, you're mentioning you're out with your daughter today playing tag and all that. What's kind of your first memory as a kid, not just hockey, but getting into sports and or even just being a competitive athlete at a really young age?
I think I was on skates when I was maybe 3 years old. My dad wasn't wasting any time. And then you start at 5 playing competitive hockey. And just as far as the childhood goes, I just remember, a lot of these out of town tournaments and it wasn't even just the hockey. I mean, we had some great teams. We won a lot of tournaments, but it was kind of just hanging out with your buddies, playing mini sticks in the hallways, going on the water slides after the games and eating a Boston pizza, stuff like that. I think it's maybe changed a little bit now. Growing up in the 90s, obviously there was no cell phones and stuff like that. So, we were just kind of being kids, having fun. And, I don't know, I think a little bit of that is lost these days with some of these kids. The kids I coach, I know sometimes, I'll walk into the dressing room and you got 15 guys glued on their phone. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me, when you're in a dressing room and, that was that time to socialize with your buddies. And it's kind of changed these days. But, a lot of great memories as a kid. Made a lot of great friendships. Just a lot of fun times. So I was lucky in that way for sure.
I've definitely kind of noticed too that the outdoor rink isn't quite what it used to be. For a multitude of reasons, it definitely seems like the kids are busier with the commitments that they have with their team. But just wanted to ask you about the outdoor rink and what kind of role it played in you growing up.
Yeah, no, it was a big role. I remember my dad would take me out. I don't even think I had many buddies that would come. It was always me and my dad, and I was pretty young, and he'd throw me on the ice with the teenagers or the adults that were playing, and just kind of throw me into the fire that way. Like you said, it's the outdoor rinks. It's kind of dying. I don't know. It's not what it used to be, where you get a bunch of friends, you meet there after school or whatnot. Maybe it's because the schedules for kids are busier now. I know that they have a lot of things going on. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but yeah, when I was growing up, the outdoor rinks was, you'd be out there till pretty much it was time for supper or time to go to bed, and
when they shut the lights off.
Right? And so now it's you don't see a whole lot of that. I got a rink not too far from my house, and I plan on bringing my kids out there. You know, once it freezes up here this winter, I have a buddy of mine that has his own outdoor rink at his place. So I mean, I don't want to lose that tradition with my kids, and you know, it's just a great time to be out there and you know, keep them off the screens, off the TVs, you know. So yeah, no, hopefully it can make a comeback here. We'll see.
And obviously spending time with your dad, I mean, that sounds like an incredible memory for you to be out there, to go out with him. Do you think, looking back on it, that the time that you spent out there being able to be with players, like you mentioned the teenagers that were there, with players older than you, do you think that helped kind of fuel maybe some competitive drive to try to get to a higher level at a quicker pace?
Yeah, no, for sure it did. Obviously when you're younger, you're smaller, you have to raise your game to keep up with the big boys, and for sure, I mean, growing up my whole life, I remember him throwing me out there with, and not just out the outdoor rink, but wherever, I'd always be playing with older kids. And you know, I was fortunate enough to have a dad that was really into hockey, and probably maybe he wanted it even more than I did. But you know, it was a blessing in that he pushed me, he motivated me. He was a great teacher. So yeah, no, I was fortunate that way, where I had a parent, and not only just my dad, but my mom as well. You know, she was very supportive. I mean, you could probably ask her. I've never probably played a bad game in my life if you ask her. So she was kind of my safety net when you know, the old man would get on me about a bad game or whatnot. But no, I was very lucky. I had two parents that gave up their time, their money. Obviously, hockey's not a cheap sport to get in, and we were not rich by any means. So you know, they made a lot of sacrifices, a lot of time. So I was very, very fortunate, and everything I've gotten through the game I owe to my mom and dad, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, maybe to kind of stay on the theme with your dad, obviously I know from being on minor hockey teams with you that he was one of our coaches for several years. Did you find that relationship a little bit different when it got into the competitive side, a little bit more versus than the outdoor rink? Was that something that was similar to the outdoor rink, or you know, drastically different? Were you guys able to kind of make that transition?
I mean, yeah, like you said, you know, my dad, and I think he was similar to a lot of dads back then. Yeah. They were very intense. They took the games very seriously. You know, they pushed us hard, for sure. If we weren't performing, even I remember being a young age, and maybe Adam, so what is that, 8, 9, 10 years old, maybe playing a bad game and being afraid to get in the car with them, you know, because, you know, it was going to be a long ride home. But, you know, it motivated me. I think he wouldn't have done these things if he knew that I couldn't handle it too, you know, or that I had that passion for the game. And I don't remember once being like, I've had enough, I'm going to quit, or, you know, anything like that. He definitely motivated me. He was definitely hard on me, but I mean, like I said, I don't think that's much different from many of the other dads that we were dealing with back then. It was different back then, I think too, as far as just, you know, the expectations were high. They were putting their time and sacrificing, like I mentioned too. So they wanted us to, you know, give the same effort in return. So they had high expectations for us, and you know, it pushed a lot of us to go a ways in the game. So I mean, there were times when I didn't like him very much, but as I got older, I realized what he was doing for me, and you know, I ended up getting a free education out of it, 13-year pro career. And I don't know if I would have been able to get that far without him. Actually, I know I wouldn't have. So I'm very lucky for that too.
I mean, Sean, you might be able to jump in on this question too. Did you guys equally see, you know, your dads or your coach? Did it feel like you had four fathers on the team, basically, with, you know, how hard they push you? It seems like they're very similar.
Yeah,
your, you know, coaches and dads very similar, pushing you guys.
For sure. I mean, and there was no favorites out there. Our dads were probably harder on us than they were the other kids, but everyone was held accountable. You know, it was tough love back then. I mean, you were expected to perform and at least put in an effort. I mean, obviously you're not going to win every game. There's going to be bad games, and they understood that, but I think at the end of the day, they just wanted us to have, just to put our best effort forward. And, we had a lot of success. And like I said, a lot of guys, we were just talking before we got on air here, we were looking at a picture downstairs, and there's a Pee Wee championship photo where you have 3 guys on the team that got NHL games, Shalemko, Dustin Cohn, myself, and then you have another draft pick, NHL draft pick, Jesse Martin, who had to retire early. He broke his neck in college. And then you had, 3 other guys that played Division I hockey, Sean, Kevin Bowie, and I think Tyler Swiston went to Michigan. So, I mean, the odds of that are just insane for a Pee Wee hockey team to have 1 NHL player, let alone 3, plus, the odds of even making Division I hockey are insane these days too. So, no, I mean, it was great. We had a lot of success. We had a lot of good players, a lot of good parents, and a lot of good coaches that, pushed us. And, it ended up, a lot of us had a lot of success in the game. So we were very fortunate for sure.
Something I think is really important to hear about this is it was 2 parents had their separate roles in the development, right? Like your mom was the caring one, dad was pushing you. So I think overall that's an important aspect for any athlete growing up is, having the support from home.
Yeah, no, time. Definitely. I mean, thank God I had my mom to kind of lean on when things were tough with my dad. I remember they would drive separately to the rink because my dad would get me to the rink about 2 hours early for Pee Wee hockey games. The other kids are showing up 15, 20 minutes before. I'd be sitting in the dressing room for an hour at least before games, and he'd tell me to think about the game. So my mom there's no way she was getting to the rink 2 hours before. So I think that was maybe part of his plan to have me to himself after the game in the car. But obviously it was a great feeling when you would play good, and you'd have that encouragement from him in the car. I used to love getting in the car and talking about the game. So I mean, there was more good experiences than bad. But no, like for your question, going back, it's great to have the double support system where, okay, one can be hard on you, but the other one's kind of good cop and your safety net, and you can always go and talk to. And so it was a nice balance for me in the end. I think that's the way it was for a lot of us growing up.
Where did you find the drive? Because you said it was your drive mainly. Where did you find that early on in life?
I think I just really enjoyed playing the game. I was good at it, which helps obviously at an early age, and but I still feel like my dad was he was at every practice, didn't miss a practice. Even when we were at dawn and we're skating at 1 PM, he was at the rink. If you guys remember, the one person standing in the stands, the one dad, I was like, can you just not come for one skate? But for, if he would miss a skate, sure enough, I'd be, instead of at the front of the line, like he always told me, I'd be one of the guys dicking around in the back and, not really, because it was kind of like, okay, I can have some fun today. So I think looking back as I got older, it's like, I'm glad that he was there, holding me accountable. So I think I would have been one of those kids that didn't push himself as hard as he could have without that extra motivation. And that's not for everybody. I mean, I have friends or teammates that I played with, and their dad couldn't give 2 shits, they wouldn't come, and not that they didn't care, but they just weren't into hockey as much, and they didn't, they were just, happy that their kid probably wasn't at the mall or something like that, doing something else. And those guys ended up playing pro hockey or in the NHL too. So it's not like you need that motivation. In my case, I think it worked out well that I had that, but it's not for every kid at the same time.
There's lots of different ways for it to work. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to build on Matt's question, did you find that you were a fan as well of the game early on? Oilers, obviously huge in this town for a lot of young kids. Did you find that was kind of fueling some of the competitiveness and love for the game as well?
Yeah, no, a big time. I remember watching a lot of hockey with my dad. Hockey night in Canada on Saturdays, we would always be watching together. I'd have a friend over, and, their parents are over, and we'd always be watching hockey on TV. Whereas I don't know if that's the same way it is now. I know last year during the Oilers run, I'd have a skate the next day with, 12, 13-year-olds. I'd be like, hey, did you guys watch the game last night? And they're like, no. I'm like, you live in Edmonton, you play hockey, and you're not watching the Oilers playoff run on TV. We caught the highlights. I'm like, well, and so I don't know if these kids watch enough anymore. There's so many other things for them to do. There's so many distractions. And I think that was a big part of how I learned how to play the game. As far as your hockey IQ and your hockey sense, what better way to learn than watching the best players in the world, consistently, instead of just watching the highlights the next day. You see the goals, great, but do you see how that goal happened? Do you see what happened in the D zone to get that puck there? Just the little things like that you pick up on where, and I even see it now with the kids, like their skill is off the charts. Like they can shoot the puck harder than I could when I was going into junior already. Yeah. These, 14-year-old kids, they fly around the ice. They can pick up their stick and do the puck and do the Michigan. I think they practice their celebrations a lot too. They just love doing their sellies. But so I think they watch, the highlights and these sick plays and stuff, but I don't know if they actually watch the full game and learn those little things that go into making plays and D zone and just there's 3 zones. There's not just the play at the end that when Connor McDavid walks around 2 guys and scores, somebody had to get him the puck in the D zone or whatever it is, right? So it's I encourage these kids when I do have skates to watch a little more. I mean, like I said, the distractions there's a lot these days, but take the time and watch some hockey once in a while. I think it'll be good for them.
Was there a certain player you kind of watched a lot and tried to model your game after a little bit? Like now we're fortunate with Connor McDavid to see, but back then, there was like Doug Waite and...
Yeah, as far as the Oilers go... Mike Greer, yeah. I think that was Kevin Mack's favorite player. But no, as far as the Oilers go, I like Dougie Waite a lot. I even liked Mike Comrie quite a bit when he was there. Yeah. But outside the Oilers, Joe Sakic was probably my favorite player. I was a big Colorado Avalanche fan other than when they were playing the Oilers. But Stevie Yzerman, Mike McDonough, all these centers, these great centers in the 90s and 2000s, you kind of try to emulate your game off of. And yeah, those are probably the big ones. I used to love Pavel Bure too, the Russian Rocket. So yeah, I mean, I definitely had some of these guys that I tried to model my game off of and just learn from them when I would watch for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned hockey IQ. How young do you think you were when you thought you're able to process and develop that? You mentioned, kids don't watch the full game anymore. And, when did you notice that you're picking up on things and implementing it into your game?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough question. I do remember our coaches were teaching us a little differently back then, like Sean's dad, Bill. I feel like we were running skates, or he was running skates that were well advanced for our age group. Our systems were to a T. We were doing crosses and drops, changing lanes, D-men jumping up in the play. And this is stuff where, I'm not an actual coach of a team, but I don't think they're doing that at the age we were. So I think we were getting taught hockey IQ at a young age. Yeah. Whereas it wasn't, I think maybe more now, it's a lot more skill development and, which is fine too. Obviously you need skill, you need to be able to skate, you need to be able to handle the puck. But at the same time, hockey IQ, I would say, as I'm sure most of you guys would agree, is probably the most important, right? So that's the thing that I try to teach. I know when I'm out there with Sean, he's trying to do that kind of stuff too, where it's not just the skating and the shooting and all that we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach hockey IQ. And I also work with the company called Shift, and they're with Kane of a franchise and Matt Tassoni, and they agree too. They do the same thing. It's a lot of hockey IQ stuff as opposed to what other maybe people are doing, where it's strictly physical skill development. So yeah, I mean, it's just the way we look at it. Like I said, I think it's the most important attribute is your hockey IQ. So it's obviously something that can be practiced and it can be learned. A lot of guys are born with it, but for the kids that don't have it, I think it can be taught a little bit, so
I think you guys are pretty fortunate with like elite coaching pretty early. Like, it wasn't just some dad that didn't really understand the game. You kind of had, 3 or 4 dads that really understood and could teach you that. So
yeah, oh no, big time.
I always remember their classic line was think, right? They wanted us to be thinking, like
think the game.
Kael's dad, my dad, they'd always be saying think. They'd be pointing at their heads, right? Like think boys think, and they put us in a lot of situations where we had to do that. But to your point, Kael, too, I find the the video analysis that you were essentially doing by watching those games to be such a big thing that, like you said, not enough kids are doing these days. Can you maybe just talk a little bit more about how you and your dad would watch those? So obviously there's a big difference between watching the highlights, but then I think there's also a difference between just watching a game passively as a fan and kind of doing stuff, other things at the same time, versus actually watching it and engaging, and additionally having someone like your dad who can walk you through those things that you're seeing, what to do better, what not to do, what they did well. Maybe just talk a little bit about how that went and how that analysis worked. Obviously, you guys are still trying to enjoy yourselves on a hockey night in Canada, but how did that kind of evolve through the years?
I mean, I do remember him being like, did you see that play? Did you see what that guy did? Whether it's, these little plays in a game that maybe some people aren't really paying attention to, like take a hit to make a play or, whatever it is. And then I do also remember, if Joe Sacco could step on the ice, be like, watch him the whole shift. Don't take your eyes off him. Just watch what he's doing the entire time. Kind of ISO cam on a guy like that or whoever it was. So we were watching, we were enjoying it. I wasn't sitting there like he's the teacher the whole time. Right. I mean, but it was, we just watched so much that it was, and it was fun for me. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to class with my dad watching hockey. Like it wasn't a chore. I enjoyed it. And so, it was fun, and he would just point some stuff out to me if he saw something, and then before you know it, I'm picking up on him, telling him, did you see that? Just watching the best players at the time, so looking now, if you're watching McDavid for a shift, just watch what him and Draisaitl do. Just don't even look at anybody else. Don't watch the puck. I mean, they do have the puck for the majority of the shift anyways, but, if you just watch some of the things they do, and, not just them, there's so many good players out there. You can watch Zach Hyman and see how much he does out there, whether he's on the score sheet or not. He's contributing in certain ways, and it's when you're watching. I tried to learn as much, but it was, like I said, it was fun for me too. It wasn't like it was class or anything like that. So.
For sure, yeah. Well, and maybe just a little pivot here. Obviously, we're getting to know a lot about your years with hockey growing up, but were there any other sports that kind of got your competitive juices flowing at all, that balanced out any summer sports?
Yeah, I loved baseball. I loved playing baseball. I was usually, when you're at that age, you're kind of playing all positions, but I was mostly shortstop and pitcher, a little back catcher too. I really enjoyed the game. I played soccer, I think like most guys. I maybe for like a year or something like that, kind of gave that up. Yeah. Golf was big. But, I know me and Sean have had this conversation. These other sports, they help you develop skills as an all-around athlete, not just in that sport. I can, just for instance with baseball, okay, my hand-eye coordination, there's just things like that. In golf, the same thing. Like when you become an overall athlete, it makes you a better hockey player at the end of the day, I feel like. And again, going back to the kids now, I could be wrong, but I don't know how many of them are really playing other sports these days. Mm-hmm. I think hockey's such a demanding thing for your time these days, where they're not really taking breaks. They're playing their season, they're playing spring hockey, then their summer hockey, and it's like, I'm like, when do you guys take a break, not only physically but mentally from the game, and try something else? And you're not like, just go have fun with a different sport and meet other kids outside of hockey. And I think it's all good stuff when you're trying new things. I was reading something the other day where gymnastics is one of the best things you can do for any sport at a young age, because it just builds your core and your flexibility, stuff like that. So anything other than hockey is great to get into for sure. And the social aspect, just meeting other people, trying something new. Maybe you love baseball more than you ever thought you would, and you want to chase that dream now. It's like, it doesn't always have to just be hockey, but I think other sports can definitely help your hockey for sure. It's I think just being an all-around athlete's so important. You don't see too many NHL players that can't throw a ball or can't swing a golf club pretty good, right? They're really, really good all-around athletes. Quarterbacks, they're scratch golfers. Baseball players, they're sick athletes too. Yeah. Everybody, it's exactly. It's just building up other skills and taking a break from the game. Like, you can't be playing hockey for 11, 12 months a year. You're going to get burnt out,
yeah.
right? So, definitely was into other sports. And then at a time, I don't know what age, maybe 13, 14, you're kind of like, okay, I remember my dad saying, I know you love baseball, but it's time to choose one now. And I was like, well, that's an easy decision, but I enjoyed it while it lasted. And, still get to play some golf and slow pitch now. And, but yeah, you got to play other sports for sure.
Did you find that, on the mental side, that having that break, especially in those early years, by playing some baseball or some golf, like you came back that much more hungry for hockey when tryouts rolled around?
Yeah, you have to miss it a little bit, right? If you're playing all year, like I said, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to get tired of going to the rink, getting your gear on. You're not looking forward to it anymore. Whereas if you take that break, develop other skills, you want that hunger. You want to be, chomping at the bit, ready to get back into it. And then, it's a long season as it is. So, I mean, I encourage these kids now to take a little break, just do other things. Mm-hmm. Just take a break from the game and you'll come back, like you said, hungrier, more motivated.
Yeah.
I know Maddie was a ball player back in the day. Did you guys play against each other at all?
I'm trying to think. I played for South Jasper Place for a while.
How long did you play baseball for, Kael? Like, did you get into kind of the competitive ranks at all with it?
I remember I was towards maybe 12 or 13. I think I had a chance to play for some provincial team or whatever. We were going to Calgary, and I remember just being like, because money was kind of tight with my family back then too. Like we were, I was using used equipment to play hockey and stuff like that. And I kind of made the decision at that age where I was like, if it's going to cost us this money to play baseball, I'll just say, no, I don't want to do it. And I never even told my parents that that's why I quit at that time, or I didn't do that tournament. But I was like kind of conscious of that time about, the money situation, how expensive hockey was. We were going to Donnan. That was, I think not like the schools are now, but what is it, $200 a month, so two grand a year, and back then that was pretty good money. So, I think right around 13 though. I mean, I was playing decent ball, but I knew where I wanted to go with hockey, and it was time to make a decision, and I did that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Obviously, we definitely want to talk about Donnan, and just the integration that the hockey program had with school. What are some of your memories from Donnan? What did you like? What did you maybe not like? Sounds like obviously that was kind of at the time when you were looking to lean a little harder into hockey. So how did that step going to that school kind of move things forward for you?
No, it was great. I mean, I don't think I have too many bad memories or things I didn't like. We obviously had great coaches there. Billy Moores was there for a while. Just a great hockey mind. What a great guy to learn from. I remember the early days. Sid Bransma, Eric Morissette were there. Dan Peacock was there. But the great thing about Donnan was just 2 or 3 days on the ice, and then those other days we were doing lots of other stuff. We were going rock climbing. We were playing soccer. We were playing flag football. So it wasn't always hockey. What was it? Some of the other stuff we had. We had
for sure.
Wrestling.
Just like phys ed the whole year.
Yeah.
Just gym stuff.
Yeah, I remember they brought in
that skating machine we used to go on.
The skating machine. This was all crazy stuff because we were the first hockey program of its kind at that point. So all these other kids, I remember leaving my grade 4 school, and before I left, I was to one of my buddies, I'm like, I'm going to a different school. We play hockey in the afternoon and we only do 4 subjects. He's like, the teachers aren't going to allow that. Like, well, I think they are. Like, I'm going there next year. And no, it was great. And going back to just learning other sports, and like we had Michael McCangus' dad come in and work with us on public speaking at like a young age. So just getting
interviews
comfortable
and stuff like that.
So it was kind of groundbreaking stuff back then, what they were doing for us. And now you see these schools everywhere. It's a lot more common, but for sure back then it was awesome. I think we all enjoyed it a lot. We all made a lot of great friends that a lot of us are still keep in touch to this day. So it was a great experience.
Even the mental training too with Peacock. We did a lot of, he talked about, accountability, determination. I can't remember I remember those cards we used
the acronyms.
to
get.
I don't remember exactly how it worked, but we were talking about that, and we were almost too young potentially at the time to. Looking back on them, like this was like the greatest
our
thing
attention
ever.
spans maybe it was a little early for us, but
very cutting edge though in a lot of ways.
But it was more than just like the skills and just only hockey. It was so much more than
broader.
that.
Right.
Yeah, like life skills, really.
Can you all three maybe speak on this? Like, and we might touch on it again, but at the time going to that school, did you ever feel burnt out, you know, being on ice in the afternoon and then having a game that night? Did you guys ever get tired or notice anything along those lines, where now that conversation can come up, I think, with student athletes in those programs?
Yeah, I never did. And it wasn't ever really an option for me to take the option.
Yeah.
You know, my dad says, you have skating on Wednesday, you have a game tonight, you're doing both.
Yeah.
You know, if you're young, you got lots of energy back then. You can skate for days. Like, even in the pros, you have a morning skate, and
Yeah.
some guys take it a little easier. Some guys like to take the option if there is an option. I would get out there for 30 minutes and get a good sweat. That's what worked for me. I liked getting that little workout in the morning. I've played with guys that don't care for the morning skate at all, and they feel better at night without it. But when you're a kid, no, like, to your question, I didn't feel burnt out. No, I don't know how these guys felt, but
Yeah, I think the big change now is that the kids are doing so much more with their team after school hours. Like, we still, as Kael has talked about, had hard practices and very, intense practices, which was great. But there wasn't 6 practices a week with our winter team. We didn't have all these extra skill sessions and this demand for having so much ice. Like, everybody is trying to do everything now. So the balance back then worked quite well. I think now you see a little bit more of that because, you're skating during the day, but then you're also skating potentially 5-6 times a week with your team, right? So for us, I think we got kind of lucky that it was a really good time. But like Kael said, you're young and, you've got a ton of energy, and overall it was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but the variety really helped too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
like, I think I might just take a nap in the car on the way home, and it's good to go.
Good to go.
Recharge. Yeah.
But I think even in once we got into spring, I think we really eased off on the on ice too.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, we did a lot of outdoor activities, and
we were playing flags in the ravine.
Yeah,
that was like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Man. But
I don't think you could do that now.
actually,
yeah,
stuff
probably
you
not.
can't do now.
Probably
Do you
some shitty
remember
customers down there.
remember how we got to the rink? We would just walk.
Yeah,
down
they
the
still do.
bags.
Do
Yeah.
they still do
They
that?
still do.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that's nice to see that part there. That was actually a fun part of the. It sucked for a goalie carrying his equipment down.
Yeah, there wasn't
that
too many
far,
wheelie
but-
bags back then either.
No,
That's right.
but no, it was kind of a fun experience. You just walk around with your buddies from class, and you go play hockey in the afternoon.
Yeah,
and
no, it was great.
So moving on to high school, what high school did you go to? When did junior hockey start for you? Just kind of want to get into those years now.
Yeah, I went to East Glen High School. Ian Gallagher was there. His son's Brendan Gallagher from Montreal.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get a hockey program going there. And obviously FX had their thing going, and FX was just a long way from my house. And I know my dad kind of gave me the option if I wanted to go there. And I would have known some of you guys too. I didn't really know too many guys at East Glen, maybe a couple going in. But we had the hockey program there. It wasn't kind of run as well as it was, the Donnan or the Vimy is now. But yeah, I went there for 2 years, and then I ended up going to high school in Drayton Valley when I played for the Drayton Valley Thunder for my grade 12 year. And yeah, that was interesting too, because I was one of 3 kids that was going to school on the team, and you're hanging out with some of these country boys, and they don't like you too much, man. So it was and you're talking to, a girl or whatever, you're just trying to be friendly, and they didn't like that stuff a whole lot. So, I ended up making a couple buddies, but it was, you hear this on some of these smaller towns when you go play, just
Kind of fish out of water a bit.
yeah, a little bit, and you're just not one of them kind of type thing. But I think that's kind of normal. But no, I went to Drayton for that year, played with the junior team. Then I came back and graduated at East Glen in the last month or 2 of the school year. So
How'd you? You would have had a billet then, right?
Yeah.
How did you find that jump? Because I know for a lot of kids that's a pretty big change. Living at home for 16, 17 years, and then all of a sudden being with a billet family. How was that for you?
yeah, no, it was great. I was lucky enough to have some really good billets. Yeah, it's not like when you go to college or you know, you go play pro where you're actually on your own cooking your meals and stuff. Like I still had, you know, a billet mom that was cooking my meals and doing my laundry and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely adjustment. You're going into a new family, and, you know, sometimes it doesn't always work with certain kids or whatever. Mm-hmm. But no, I was lucky. I had great billets, really awesome people, and, you know, people that you still, you know, keep in touch, or not a whole lot, but, you know, they have a birthday on Facebook, you say happy birthday, how you doing, and, you know, just so I was lucky in that sense, and it was a lot of fun for me playing out there, because it wasn't too far from Edmonton. I could still come home once every couple of weeks. My parents were at just about every game, so I wasn't totally gone. And then, yeah, just once you're out and you're not at home, you're kind of, okay, we would hang out a lot outside the rink, and you're playing Halo, and, you know, you have 8 guys playing on 2 TVs, and we just had like epic Halo 2 battles. And so, yeah, no, junior hockey was a lot of fun. I had a great spot in Drayton. Like I said, it was close to home, so it wasn't like a huge adjustment those first couple of years. So
what was it like just as a teenager? I mean, I think we forget that when you're recruited from Bantam or midget, you're still a kid. And so what was that process like for you as a teenager, getting interest from a team outside of Edmonton? Like, I've heard of guys not knowing what the Western League is, right, and they're 14 and the team calls them. Like, what was that process of being recruited like for you?
Well, yeah, when I was that age, I think everyone, for the most part, was like, we want to go play in the Dub. We think it's the best route for everybody. Unfortunately, at that time, my draft year, I think I was 5'3", 120 pounds, and back then it was the big boy league of the Dub. Like, you had to be a pretty damn near man at that point to, you know, get any looks. So I went undrafted, and, you know, I was listed by a few teams. Vancouver had my rights, Medicine Hat had my rights, Calgary had my rights at one time, and I think at 17 I still was like, I want to go to the Dub, I think it's cool. And then so I went to Vancouver's camp. I think I was supposed to make the team, and then this Adam Corshane, 20-year-old, I think they expected to be going play pro. He kind of unexpectedly came back, and so that's one less center spot. And I think I was kind of, you know, I wouldn't say a great camp, and they were like, okay. And then so, like, they kind of made my decision for me. I ended up going to junior A, and I was like, hey, I'm going college, and it ended up being the best thing that ever happened for me. As a smaller player, it gives you those couple extra years to develop. I think I probably went into college so I was 18. I think I was maybe 160 pounds. By my senior year, I was 185, 190 pounds, ready to play, you know, the pro game at that point. Whereas, you know, we never know, but maybe I wouldn't have been ready at 19 or 20 playing in the Dub for those years. And so, I mean, looking back, I think it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, even though at the time I was kind of sour. I wanted to play in the Dub, because that's what all these guys are doing. I remember someone telling me back in the day, they're like, if you're in the top 10% of your age group, 10, 15, maybe even 20%, then maybe Dub's the way to go, because that's the fast track, obviously, to pro hockey in the AHL. But if not, like, what's wrong with college? Obviously, it's different now. Coming in next year, you can play junior A, then you can play in the Dub, and then you can go the college route. So it's totally changed now. But for me at that time, it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. I think I developed physically, you know, emotionally. I grew up a lot in those 4 years of college. Had a great time. I went to an awesome school, and we had a lot of good times. And again, a lot of lifelong buddies that I still keep in touch with. So great relationships. You know, and we were playing big time hockey. It was the old WCHA, so you're playing North Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Denver. You're going, like, back then Wisconsin was filling their rink, 15,000 people. I mean, it's, you know, that was a great way to get prepared for the pro game. Sorry. And yeah, like I said, it was a hell of a time. We had so much fun. You playing, you're a Division I hockey player, and at that school that I went to, Minnesota State, we were the only Division I program. So you're kind of like,
you're the team,
right? Yeah, so it was fun, and this is back before. I mean, we had phones, but it wasn't like the Instagram wasn't going yet. The Tinder was not going. I don't know how these guys do it now with 15,000 students getting on your Tinder or whatever they do now. But I'm glad that I was there before all that, to be honest. Yeah. No, it was great times. So I loved it.
Going back to the start though, like how was your recruiting process into both like going to Drayton Valley and to college after? Like how did you get approached and what was that process like?
Well, you know what? At first I was going to go to Sherwood Park Crusaders. So you have these like camps in the spring. They have spring camps, and I went 1 year when I was 15, I guess, and had a pretty good camp. And they're like, okay, we're gonna list you or sign you, whatever. You're gonna play here next year at 16. And I was like, okay, great, right in Sherwood Park, close to home. And then I didn't end up making the team that year. And then, yeah, like I said, the following year I thought I was going to Vancouver. Didn't make that team, but I had been in touch with a guy, Mark Howell, in Drayton Valley. And yeah, he'd meet up in the summer. How did he reach
out to you, I guess? Yeah.
I don't remember. I think he probably just phoned me up one day. Like they go to these midget games. I was playing midget hockey that year. They watch the games, or they have,
intercept you out of the rink.
Type thing. And I remember going to a dinner or lunch or something with him and my parents, and just getting to know him a little bit. And and that's kind of, we built up a relationship, and I kind of told him I was trying to go dub, and he's like, hey, that's great, good for you, good luck, and if it doesn't work out, maybe think about Drayton Valley. And then so when I did get released from Vancouver, I went home, flew home, and next day my dad drove me to Drayton Valley, and then said see you later. So
And it sounded like you were pretty committed to staying the junior A path. Did you, throughout that season in grade 12, consider going back to camp after grade 12? I'm assuming, if not them, some dub team would have had you. Did you go to a camp that year? Or
no,
I didn't. You were
100%
sticking with it.
I was sticking with it at that point because I was a 17-year-old now. I was getting attention from schools. I was getting letters, going on fly downs, so that kind of made my decision. I'm done with the dub route. I even got listed by Medicine Hat that second, or when my first year in college, my freshman year, and they had a hell of a team. That's the year that Schlemko, Ennis, these guys, they won the dub, and then they went to the Mem Cup, and then lost to Vancouver. And I remember talking to Willie Desjardins on the phone. He was trying to get me to come. He had like Dorset and Russell calling me. But I was so committed. I was having so much fun in college too. I was just like, I'm not leaving this place. I love it. So I don't know. I think it was just the best route for me. I was still not the biggest guy, and those extra years of, Division I college hockey was just great for my development. So I think in the end I stuck with it. I think it worked out. I think I made the right decision in the end.
Was there a little motivation? You talk about being let go of Vancouver. That was your goal. I got your stats up right now. Pretty good numbers in the AJ. Was there some motivation to prove them wrong? That it's maybe that first year before all the college stuff happened, to say, hey guys, you should have kept me. Look at the numbers I'm putting up. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's always extra motivation whenever you get cut. You always want to prove them wrong. Be like, you fucked up or whatever, it's like it does give you that motivation. But yeah, I mean, that's part of, playing hockey. Very few guys make it their whole career without getting cut from a team, right? So it's how you handle it. I mean, you can't just, sulk and let it affect you negatively. You got to use it as a positive and continue to push. I mean, it's not a race, right? It's a marathon to get there in the end. And, everybody has their routes, and everybody develops at different times. Some guys hit their peak when they're 16 years old. I remember playing with amazing players back in the day, and then they never panned out after junior or whatever. And there's guys that come undrafted, come out of nowhere, and end up being 10-year NHL vets. You never know. Yeah. Mentally, you obviously got to continue just to believe in yourself, and one setback, two setbacks, it can't stop you, because then you're gonna be done pretty quick if that stops you. So any extra motivation always helps, and for sure, I guess I probably did use it as motivation back then.
To build on Matt's recruitment question, so as you were having success in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, you mentioned you went on a couple fly downs. What kind of solidified your decision to go to Mankato?
Well, I did have a good time on that fly down. What they do is they put you with some older guys, and I think they take you around the school for a bit, but then you're kind of with them for for the nighttime, and they take you around. I don't know how I got into the bars at 17 when you got to be 21, but they found a way to get me in. But no, it showed me a good time. The big thing for me too on the hockey side was I really wanted to play in that conference. The conferences have all changed now. There's the Big Ten and all this, but back then Minnesota State was in that WCHA with all the big boys. I think the year before I went, my freshman year, it was back-to-back Frozen Fours with all WCHA teams. The Frozen Four was all. So I was like, this is the best conference. I want to go play against the best teams, against the best players, and so yeah, that was what made my decision. I signed with them sometime my rookie year in Drayton Valley, and I played another year in Drayton, and then the following year I left when I was 18. So just wanted to play against the best at the time in the country, and ended up being a great decision too.
Were there any conversations with the coaching staff that maybe influenced that a little bit too, compared to other schools?
Yeah, I mean, you meet with the coaches when you go down there, and a big thing for when I went to Minnesota State, or the reason I went there, or I ended up deciding to go with them, the head coach at the time, Troy Judin, he came to Edmonton and met with my parents, came to our house.
Wow.
So, obviously you want to go where you're wanted, and that kind of showed to us the commitment that they had and the belief they had in me, right? So that was a big thing. Just the fact that he came, and like I said, just being wanted, and you definitely get that feeling when somebody flies to a different country to see you. So I could have maybe held on for another year and tried to put up more points, and maybe some Denver or some of these North Dakota, some of these bigger schools maybe would have come calling, but you also don't want to take that risk. If I have something, I had a full 100% scholarship on the table, I'd be crazy to turn that down. You never know what's going to happen, right? So just the interest, the commitment level they showed me was probably the biggest factor in my decision at the end of the day.
How much did your parents have an influence on your decision to go to school, or did they or which school, sorry, and then, or how much did they leave it up to you?
That was all me. I remember my dad at that time, he kind of just gave me the information, put it in front of me, if you go this way, this is what, but he never wanted to make that decision for me. I distinctly remember him being like, I'm not making this decision. This is your decision. Obviously he's probably thinking, if I tell you to do something, it doesn't work out, you're going to resent me for it. Right. So, no, they were great about that. It was all up to me. They just said, whatever you feel is
system,
right.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, no, that was great. I was never feeling any pressure one way or the other. That's quite a bit to put, make that decision for one of your kids, I would think. So, no, they handled it great. There was never any pressure that way.
I think that's an important subject in general. Like for you, Sean, when you went to Brown, like, was that your decision, or did your parents have a little bit to do with that? I don't know where else you were offered, but
yeah, similar to Kael, it was just the information is in front of you, and there's all those different variables, like going and flying down there, having a good night with the guys on the team, and just feeling like you click with the campus, and all those different things play into it. But yeah, I think it's a really good point by Kael that the parents are the more mature ones in the conversation at that point when you're only 18, 19, 20 years old. And I never really thought about that, but it's a really good point that they don't want to, they want you to make a good decision, but at the same time, they don't want to be, telling you what to do, like when you're 6. And at the same time, they don't want to risk that resentment, like you said afterwards, right? It's a big decision, and it needs to be made ultimately by the player and the student. So, yeah.
And Kael, you mentioned how involved both your parents were. Did you find as the higher you got, and it sounds like this was the case, that the amount of effort, you mentioned the conversations with your dad, the coaching, that kind of tailed back as you got older and at a higher level of hockey?
A little bit. I wasn't stuck in the car with him, but if I played a bad game,
driving 90 minutes,
I would still hear about it on the phone. Okay. But no, definitely not to level like that it was when I was a kid. Obviously, if I'm playing college or pro at that point, I have some idea of what I'm doing by that point, and he knew that. So I think it was more, there was still a level of accountability if I was, not moving my feet was a big one, and there was times I'm like, what is this guy even talking about? Is he watching the game, or is he losing it, or what? Like, I thought I played pretty good. There there was still some I would hear about it like on the phone, but definitely not the same. Like it was. No, it was just like, come on, let's pick it up. It wasn't ever to the point that it was when you were a kid. But no, there was, and he didn't miss. I don't think he missed one game, and he must have missed a few in junior, the Fort Mac trips and stuff like that. But no, they came down to school. I think every place I played in North America anyway, in pro, I think they came down to visit and watch some games, so that was great too.
That's awesome. How did you find on the hockey side? How did you find the transition between the junior game and the college game?
Junior to college, that was a pretty big step. These guys in college, you're going from playing 17, 18, 19-year-olds to you're playing against some 24, 25-year-olds, right? So I remember showing up the first day, and these older guys look like football players, man. These college guys they're big boys too, right? They work out quite a bit. Their practice habits, like you show up and it's business, right? It's maybe in junior, it's a business there too, but it was just another level going to college where we don't mess around here. Like when you're here to work, whether it's in practice or in the gym, you're here to work. This is your job kind of thing. But yeah, the speed of the game was quick. The college game's fast. So yeah, your freshman year, it's a huge jump coming from junior A hockey. It's a lot of guys, you're not just put right into the first, second line that you've been used to. You got to work your way up. There's older classmen that have earned their spots, and nothing really gets given to you. And that's the way I think it should be. And I don't know how much that is anymore, where if guys aren't happy, they can just go to a new school or they can go to a different league. It's like there's only so many guys that can play on a power play on every team. And if you're not happy, now I feel like you can just go and, someone else is going to give you that opportunity, where back then it was more, you got to earn it. You got to learn how to play a grinder role. You got to learn how to contribute on the fourth, third, second, like work your way up. Like I learned how to PK. If I want that extra, I wanted to be on the ice as much as I could. So how are you going to get there? I'm going to get on the ice on the PK. I'm going to be a great penalty killer, take pride in that. I'm going to work on my face-offs. If I'm the best face-off guy on the team, who's going to be on the ice at the end of the game? So it's just, it's learning how to play these different roles. And I was never, I put up some points in certain leagues, but I would never say I was that crazy skilled guy. I think I was more of an overall player that could adapt. And so even when I got called up, to the Islanders, there's no way I'm playing top two lines in the NHL. These guys are amazing. Like, it's pretty hard to crack top two lines, but if you can't play that third and fourth line, if you haven't learned that growing up, you're never gonna have a chance. They're not even gonna look at you. If I can only play power play and top two lines as a good American League player, and I can't play those bottom roles, then I likely was never gonna get called up. A lot of guys don't, and so I hope that's kind of a thing that guys realize now is like I wish that you'd have to earn it a little more and learn how to play different roles. And whereas I don't know if it's so much like that anymore. I think guys kind of get given things a lot. And if you're not happy, I'll just go somewhere else and be a first liner there, where at some point in your career, that's not going to work anymore. So it's better to learn it at a young age and, just do anything you can to get those extra shifts. It's part of the game. You're coming up. When I got called up from the Coast America League, same thing. I'm starting on the fourth line. No, nothing's given to you. So it's, but I realized that at a younger age, where I don't know if that's the case anymore. So,
how about academically handling school and hockey at the highest level?
I definitely could have been a better student. I did fine. I got my degree at the end of the day. It took me an extra couple summers to get it.
They don't ask how, just how many.
Business management's my degree. That was, I did okay. We were fortunate. We had some great professors and stuff, and the guys would kind of get you in the right classes. Not that we were getting an easy route, but, I could have studied a little harder. I think I might have been having a little too much fun at that time. I wish I kind of maybe would have hit the books a little harder. I wouldn't have had to spend two extra summers, missed a couple of my good friends' weddings during that time too. So no, it's not easy. It takes a lot of commitment, time, balance both, right? It's an adjustment. So, and you know what? At the end of the day, I did get the degree, and I am happy that I got it, because, you know, when you're done, you can't obviously play forever. So it is nice to have that in your back pocket once you're done, for sure.
Definitely think on the academic side, it's important for the older guys at the school, just for me in the golf part, is knowing which classes to take and which professors, because you are traveling for games a lot. Your practice that it has to be at a certain time in the afternoon, I'm guessing you guys practiced in. So
yep.
It's like knowing which class, when to take it, because when you are gone, that professor is going to have to kind of work with you.
For
That's
sure.
a massive part of your
And not every
education.
professor is going to be okay with you,
Yeah.
you know, missing it or having a late assignment. Because I was on the road, I was in Denver for 2 days, and, you know, whereas other professors will be a little more understanding. So yeah, like same with me. It was like you, it's had those older guys helping me out which classes to take, and that type of thing, to make it just a little easier in that sense. Yeah.
So when did your role kind of start to shift through the 4 years of college? Like, obviously, like you said, you did a great job of coming in there, being positive, realizing that you weren't going to be in the exact same environment that you were the previous year in Drayton Valley. Was it kind of after the first year, after the second year? I mean, obviously you just put your head down and just said, I've got to earn this every day, which is just such an awesome attitude to have. When did things start to shift? Did it happen with one big jump over a summer, or was it just kind of gradual steps of more ice time through those 4 years?
I would say it was a more gradual thing. I at the end of my freshman year, by the time we were in maybe the last 10 games, 15 games and into playoffs, I think I was getting a bigger role, earning a bigger role. So that definitely gave me confidence going into my sophomore year. And then, yeah, it was kind of just a steady, I never had one blow-up season where I just lit it up, you know. I think my junior year was actually my best year. And then I came back for my senior year, kind of got off to a slow start. I remember team wasn't maybe winning as many games. And then by the end, I kind of got it going again. I wouldn't say, though, to your question, there was one big summer, one big event that happened. It was more just a gradual, you know, just slowly climbing, just baby steps. And yeah, towards the end, I was one of the go-to guys by my junior and senior year. And but just having that experience of starting on the bottom helped me definitely get into the program 100%.
Any injuries throughout that? And the reason I ask is obviously that mindset of just having to stay positive through adversity. You know, injuries can be the other thing that, you know, just can change someone's role so quickly or end their career. You know, I'm sure you were a hockey player. You had some, at least. Did you find that attitude helped you get through any of those injuries that you faced along the way as well?
Yeah, I think it was my junior year. I got hit from behind and hurt my shoulder. I probably missed, I don't remember, maybe four or 5 games. But it's never an easy thing. You know, it's tough to stay, I don't want to say motivated, but it's just tough being on the sidelines. You're doing rehab. You know, luckily that was probably my most serious injury in college. And then going into the pros, I hurt my knee. I maybe missed a month and a half too. I was lucky. I never had too many crazy serious injuries. But I know a buddy of mine, he had a concussion one year. We were in St. John's and he missed, I think, 6 months. Like, just one of those things, right? And with a concussion, it's tough because you can't take an x-ray and see what's exactly wrong. You know, he couldn't watch TV for too long. He couldn't exercise really. A lot of times he's just laying in his bed, you know, in the dark. Like that would have to be the worst. So I was definitely lucky in that sense, because something like that, it's tough to come back from, but it's part of the game. It happens to everybody. You play long enough, everyone's going to get hurt. So you just got to keep at it, obviously. You know, it's just one of those things. There's nothing you can do about it. It's part of the game, and you know, try to come back stronger.
So you mentioned you weren't hurt very often. Do you think that was because you're conditioning or just style of game, or just a bit of luck factor in there?
Maybe style of game. I mean, I definitely didn't shy away from anything physical, but I don't know, maybe I didn't put myself in dangerous situations. I mean, I had a few concussions. I probably had 3 or 4 throughout my career. Those are scary, but not like the guy I was just talking about. It was more, you know, you're out for a week or whatever. But there's freak accidents. I got high sticked under my under my visor, and I actually thought I was blind. I couldn't see out of my eye. This was in Germany, and my wife calls me. I don't think she was at the game, and then one of the other wives called her, said, yeah, Kael left an ambulance, there's blood everywhere. She's like, okay.
It's a good text to send.
Calls me, and I'm like, yeah, I had to leave the game, I can't see. She's like, oh, great. And then I ended up going to the hospital, and it was just a scratched cornea or whatever, but for a time there I couldn't see. So that was a scary one. But yeah, no, a lot of it's got to be luck too, right? I think there's freak accidents, puck hits you, block a shot, you just have a bad trip and go in the wall. You never know. So I guess at the end of the day, I would say it was mostly probably luck that I didn't, playing for that long and not have anything too serious. But definitely some nicks and bruises along the way.
Sorry, and you were always diligent with your off-season training. Obviously in college, like the workouts, like you said, are a big part of the program. Did you find that beneficial? Were you guys doing like a good routine to just keep the body in a good place to take some abuse? Yeah, no, for sure. That's obviously a big part of it. You have your 3 months or whatever in the summer, and you got to take advantage of those months. And you got to be working on the right things, right? You can't just do a football player's regimen and come looking like you're all jacked up. That doesn't really work for a hockey player. So, I know I was in college, we were lifting a lot of heavy weights. And then towards the end of my career, I kind of went away from a lot of heavy stuff and working on my flexibility, trying to keep that quickness. A lot of injury prevention stuff in the gym you're working on, right? I didn't really feel like, especially when I was playing in Europe, I didn't think I needed to be able to bench 250 pounds 10 times anymore, right? It was more about, like I said, keeping your quickness and just doing things that can maybe help you, stay out of the injury room, right? So it was, towards the end, I probably wasn't, I think my biggest point would be in college or my first couple of years pro, and by the end I was probably not a whole lot different than I look right now, probably around 185 pounds at, 5'11", 6 foot. So it changes as you get older, but that's everyone's kind of different in that sense, but you kind of leave that up to the professionals too. I had some good guys, some good trainers, and the higher levels you get up, these guys know what they're talking about too. So you kind of just do what you're told and go from there. Did nutrition and diet start to become something that you were being mindful of through college, or was it a little bit later? Not in college, no. There's a lot of chicken nuggets and pizzas, and I probably thought I was actually eating healthy at the time, and I had no idea that I wasn't. It was more, again, towards the end of my career, I started paying a lot more attention to what I put in my body. I remember when I was in Sweden, the wife convinced me to get off meat, and I was like, are you nuts? But we'll try it here. And so I was just eating a lot of vegetables and stuff like that, and whatever other protein I could get to replace the meat. And that didn't last very long. I wasn't having a great go in Sweden at the time, so I was like, screw this, we're going back to the meat. But no, and my wife was actually great for when she was with me all those years in Europe, and she was great at kind of keeping me healthy as far as the meals go and stuff like that. So I was fortunate in that sense. But no, those college days, there was chicken nuggets, raviolis, kind of and you're going on a budget too. I remember back then I would get my Scully checks at the start of the semester, and I'd be like, holy man, I'm rich. And then 2 months in or a month and a half in, I'm scraping by. I'm not even getting a haircut. I'm getting my buddy to cut my hair. And, you're just trying to scrape by. You don't want to ask for too much money from back home. So the nutrition was more later in my career than it was in those early years, for sure. Yeah, we're kind of dating ourselves a little bit, but it seems like now at the college levels and even in the junior levels, that's just something that's talked about a little bit more. It wasn't necessarily something that was front of mind back when we were that age. But yeah, I think transitioning out of college now, so again, maybe we can kind of go with that thread of the recruitment process. When did you start talking to pro teams? How did that transition start to take place for you? Towards the end of my senior year. I kind of wish I had my senior year, where I had a little more point production. I think I was point per game my junior year. I kind of fell off my senior year. So I wasn't getting any attention from NHL.
or even AHL at the time, and it was East Coast League. My agent at the time just got me some type of PTO, so a player tryout in Idaho right after the college season ended. I went there for, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 games, and they had a pretty good team. I think they were first place that year, and so you had to make a playoff roster, so they had to cut some guys, and so I actually got let go after 8 or 9 games that year and came back to school. And so that was it for that. And then I ended up going back there the following year and had a decent rookie season in the coast. And but yeah, no, I wasn't getting a whole lot of attention. I thought maybe after my junior year, back then a point per game in that league was pretty solid. Yeah. I was expecting to maybe get some attention, but no, I definitely had to take the long route, starting in the East Coast League for a few years.
How did you find that? Because that's pretty common for a lot of college guys, like after their season ends, jumping into a pro team that's already been playing the whole year together. How did you find that? Like, that's a pretty unique scenario to jump into a squad that's already spent the better part of a season together. Yeah, no, it was, I was lucky enough, my roommate in college, he actually went with me. We both signed there. So there was some comfortability there that I had a friend or whatever, a buddy. But no, everyone was great. They take you in. They make you feel like you're part of the team. But at the same time, like you said, they've been together all year. They were first place. There was no real reason I don't blame the coach at all for, making the decision. Why would you bring in these new guys for the playoffs when these guys have been grinding all year? And East Coast lineups, they change throughout the year. Guys are getting called up, guys are getting sent down. There's probably 40, maybe close to 50 guys that you look on an East Coast roster that played for that team at some point during the year. But no, it was just nice to get your feet wet a little bit coming out of college instead of going, staying in school. After my senior hockey season had ended, I think it was good for me just to get that little taste of it. So just knew what to expect a little bit more for my first official year pro was the following year. How'd you find the transition with the hockey? More physical? It's just more of a grind where, college you're playing 36 regular season games. So every game is a battle, right? You can't take nights off where, in the American League and the East Coast League, you're playing 70 games now. You're playing 3 games in 3 nights. You can't put that effort out every night. You're not gonna last. So it's more of a grind. You definitely have to, and I think this is where the hockey IQ. I remember even the coach at the time was like, "Hey, we're playing our 3rd game in 3 nights, so we're not gonna do a full-on 2-1-2 forecheck. We're gonna sit back, let's rest, let's wait for a chance here. Let's turn over the puck and go score that way." It's more of a thinking man's game, I think, the higher you get, and so. Going back to the hockey IQ, if you can't think the game, you're not gonna last on physical. So there's too many good players. Everyone's got skill at that level. You got to be able to think the game. And no, it wasn't a bad transition. I had a decent rookie year. Was fortunate enough to play with some good players, and Idaho was a great spot. I loved playing in Boise. It was kind of not all that different from when I was in college, because Boise is actually a college town in itself. It's a little bigger than Mankato, but so we were still having a lot of fun. You're still young, you're still hanging out with guys outside the rink. The higher you get up, or especially when you go to Europe, guys more have their wives and guys have families as you get older, right? So the East Coast League's still pretty young, so it still kind of felt somewhat similar to college, other than obviously going to the school part. I had a great time there. I would love to go back to Boise one day. Actually, it's a beautiful city too. So
nice looking state for sure. Yeah. Like, how was the living situation there? Like, did you room with someone? Like, how'd that get set up? Did team help you with that, or was that something you had to do on your own?
In the East Coast League, you're not making a whole lot, right? You're making, I think my rookie year I was making $500 or $600 a week. So you don't really have enough money to get your own place. They just put you, at least in Boise anyway, everybody was in one apartment complex. So within you're walking distance from everybody on the team.
It's like a dorm again. Then.
Yeah, type of thing. And they put
but
you
a very nice dorm.
Yeah, they put you with 2 or 3 guys. So
is that a team expense, or is that something?
Yeah, it's team. Yeah, that doesn't come out of our. We wouldn't be bringing home too much if we were paying for paying for rent outside of that. But no, so that was easy. You just had to pay for your food and gas and stuff like that. And it was great. You're around everybody. Like I said, everyone's still pretty young. There's not too many wives, and there's girlfriends and stuff, but not very rarely there's kids around at that age or that level of hockey, I find. So it was still a lot of fun.
How'd you enjoy the travel or not enjoy? Because obviously Idaho, a bit of an outpost in that league, but I think there were more Western teams coming up, being made and at that time. But how was the travel?
I didn't mind it because we flew everywhere. So you play on the actual East Coast, you're busting for the majority of your trips. Boise, I think we flew everywhere.
Oh, wow.
I think Utah was the closest spot, and I don't know. I can't remember if we bussed there or not, but we would play, and Stockton had a team, Bakersfield had a team, Vegas had a team. So we were going to some good spots, like you're going to Ontario, California. I mean, Stockton and Bakersfield wasn't the nicest spots, but at least you're enjoying some nice weather. And then Vegas was obviously a great trip. We'd go there 3 or 4 times. Alaska had a team in that conference, so I didn't mind the travel because we were flying everywhere. So it really wasn't. You're not on the bus for 2 days straight, get into a game. It wasn't too bad at all.
So going into that first full year with Idaho, were you still on a PTO, or had you earned a contract after the few games that you played at the end of your senior season?
I was going there on a straight tryout. And I thought I was doing okay in camp, and then I remember the coach brought me in, I think before the very first regular season game. He's like, you better show me something or else you're gone. And I was like, oh, okay. Got a big game here tonight. And then it kind of, it worked out. I had a pretty good game. I think I got 2 or 3 points. And then, but in the Coast, you're not really ever too safe. They can tear up your contracts. It's like a week or a month. Like you're not on a year contract unless you're on like a 2-way deal with an American League club, where you're kind of set for the year. You kind of always got to be performing. They can let you go at any time. So I definitely had to earn my spot. That's my first full year in Boise. I guess maybe I needed a little kick in the butt from the coach, but it was definitely nothing was given at that point. I had to earn my way on that squad.
Were you a guy that, it sounds like you rose to the occasion when the coach kind of, puts an ultimatum to you? Were you the kind of athlete that needed, the fire lit under him sometimes just to get him going, where, some people hear that, I need something more out of you or you're gone? They'd, fold like a $2 tent in a hurricane.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would like to think that I was, when I would get not called out, but kind of given that little kick in the ass, that I kind of would rise to the occasion. I mean, you shouldn't really need that at that level. You shouldn't need somebody, having to do that. You should take it upon yourself. That you know that you're playing. This is your livelihood now. You should be. That should already be going through your head. But no, I don't know. And I had some tough, hard coaches, in the American League and in the East Coast League. But it kind of, growing up with my dad and our parents, it kind of, I was like, you guys, this doesn't really scare me. I think you want to get scared, you go sit in the car with my dad for 30 minutes after a game. So that, it never really like scared me or bothered me. But no, I would like to think that if I did get called out or whatever, I think for the most part, I would usually perform. I didn't really crack under that type of pressure type thing for the most part, I would think. No.
Do you look back on that and are kind of thankful that the coach did that? Because you obviously hear a lot of stories of guys at all levels of hockey that have coaches that just won't communicate with them, and they're left there just wondering what's going on. Right? Do you find that was beneficial?
I'm 100% happy you did that, because I thought, I'm sitting there before that meeting, I'm having a pretty good camp, I'm on the team type of thing, and whether I was or I wasn't at that time, it was nice to have that communication. Like just be upfront with me. I'd much rather have that than me thinking I'm playing good and you don't think I am, or I think I'm playing bad and you think I'm actually playing good. Like I've always appreciated those coaches that do communicate. And I think maybe it takes them some time to realize who they're talking to with certain guys. Maybe some guys do appreciate it and some guys don't want to hear it. So I think the best coaches, the best communicators kind of figure out, okay, what guys can take this and what guys can't. And but at the end of the day, I think you need to communicate with your players. I think that's a great thing. It's let them know how you're feeling it. And and the same thing back. Like, I'm sure they want to know how you're feeling, where your game's at, or whatever. So, yeah, obviously, open communication, I would say, is a crucial part of being a good coach.
So just looking here, that season, you end up getting a couple American League games, correct? With Texas? Yeah. How did that come to fruition?
Well, Texas was our affiliate, but I could have been called up anywhere because I wasn't on a two-way deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just so happened that maybe they were around our games a lot because they had other guys in the system. But yeah, no, I got called up. And actually, Glenn Goetz, and the assistant with the Oilers, was the coach at that time there. I don't remember what I got, maybe eight or so games. But no, it was a great experience. He was actually a great guy too. I remember I was a healthy scratch one game, me and another guy, and usually it's the assistant coach or someone's going to stay out after, and here the head coach he was kind of putting us through drills and running one-timers with us, and I thought that was pretty cool at the time. And he was great. He was very honest with me too, even when they did send me down. He personally had a chat with me and said, I don't remember the exact conversation, but he was kind of just like, you're a good East Coast League player. Right now you're not where you need to be to make it to this level. And he's like, here's some things that I thought you were good at, whatever it was. But he was a very honest guy. And I think, again, just getting that little taste of the American League my first year was great for me. And then going into next year, I was just a lot more ready for when I did get the call to, I think Bridgeport was my next stop.
So the following year, do you start with Idaho again?
I start, yeah. So that would be year 2.
Yep.
Started there again. Got off to a decent start. Got called up to Bridgeport, I want to say November, December. And then, so you're usually put on these PTOs for, what are they, maybe 20-game PTO, something like that. And then so after that 20 games, they have the choice to put you on another PTO or sign you for the year. So I ended up playing decent again. I started on the bottom there and kind of worked my way up. I think I was maybe in between second, third line center, killing penalties, maybe getting the odd PP shift here and there. And then our team had some success. When I got called up, we weren't doing well. And then the team kind of turned things around. So that obviously helps me as a player, right? Yep. It's good for everybody when the team's winning. We end up going to the playoffs. And so I end up sticking with the team for the rest of the year. And so I'm thinking, all right, great. I'm out of the coast. It's not easy to stick, right? Because they have players under contract in the American League. You almost have to steal someone's job to stick. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, I did pretty well. And of course, the following year is the lockout. So all these guys everyone's going down a level, right? So again, I'm kind of the odd man out, and here we are, my third year. I'm starting again in Idaho for 3 years in a row, and I'm like, what the hell do I have to do? I was almost thinking about going to Europe at that time. I was like, I've had enough of this. And thankfully I didn't. Started the year again in the East Coast League and got off to a good start, and got called up to St. John's. They had a bunch of injuries. St. John's, Newfoundland, they had a bunch of injuries, and then I finished the year there, had a good year, and then the following year re-signed with them. So I was finally out. It's the East Coast League. They say it's an easy league to get in, but it's not an easy league to get out. Right. But again, I think it comes down to, like I mentioned earlier, just being able to play other roles. If I was getting called up as a scorer in the East Coast League, I'm not necessarily going to get power play time right away in the American League. You have to work your way up and earn your due, you know. So I think, you know, at every level, I think I had to do that. And I mean, it just paid off in the end, just having that experience of knowing that I've done it before. And, you know, obviously when you have that chance, you don't know how many chances you're going to get. Yeah. So you got to take advantage when you do.
Did each call up seem easier?
Yeah, I definitely had more confidence. I remember my first one in Texas, I was kind of really nervous. The following year, I felt a lot more comfortable. And then by my third year, I'm like, there's no way I'm not good enough to play in this league. Mm-hmm. So it was confidence, obviously, is a big thing in any sport. Mentally, I was just a lot more mentally ready to make that jump and just have that confidence in myself.
Did you ever find over the summer that it was like, obviously your ability to be adaptable, your ability to stay positive and just keep going forward. Did you ever find the summer a little bit more difficult because there was just so much time to sort of think about what's next versus in season? You know, you got a game coming up fairly, quickly. Were the summers during these years ever difficult to stay positive through?
No, I don't know about that. It was always nice. The summers for me, they would go pretty fast because you don't see your family all year. Maybe they come out to a couple games, but you don't see your friends. So it was always a busy time. You're visiting with all your family and friends. You're trying to get some rounds of golf in. You're working out 5 days. There is still that routine where I still have a job. Yeah. I'm working out. That's my job now. So no, it was, I used to enjoy the summers, but I wouldn't skate a whole lot. I know the guys do now. I kind of maybe wish I did skate a little more back then. I wouldn't really start skating again till sometimes 3-4 weeks before camp start, where now they're doing it all summer. But no, I definitely was hungry to get back at it by the time, September rolled around or whatever. But no, I definitely enjoyed the summer. Sometimes a little bit too much with the boys back home. This is before guys had families and stuff like that, so we would have some fun back then. But no, it's still a job. Like, you're still going to work, you still have a routine, which is nice. When I retired, that's when it was more like, I don't have this routine anymore. I've either been going to the rink or going to the gym since I was 16, and then my day's done at noon, and it's just that comfortable routine that you have. Whereas when you're done, you're just like, what do I do with my time now? I don't know what I'm kind of lost.
Mm-hmm, right.
And that's kind of a normal thing for any athletes that they try to help guys now with. They talk about this. They bring people in and talk about, we're not playing forever. You kind of got to have a plan or just be ready for it.
Yeah.
But no matter how much of those talks you have, I don't think guys are ready for when it does hit. Because there was a big kind of shock for me when I was done. It's like, holy man, I don't know what to do anymore. I've been doing the same thing my whole life, and I'm kind of lost. So, it's tough. But it's been a couple of years since I've been out now, and it still doesn't completely feel normal, but we'll get there here soon, I hope.
Yeah.
Did you know it was ending, or did it just kind of happen on you?
My last year, I went to the second league in Germany, and I wasn't having as much fun playing, and I was getting older. I wasn't, I think I still had a decent season production wise, but I also had 2 kids now. The wife, hadn't been working for a while. I think she was ready to get back, and it's tough. Like, these wives don't get enough credit for the job they do. There's no grandparents out there in Europe, right? There's somebody gets sick, we're going on the road there. It's just them. So I'm sure it gets lonely. You have your other girlfriends on the team, the other wives and stuff like that. But I think it was, and we had, grandparents that are getting older that kind of, you want them to see the grandkids a little more. I'm sure I definitely could have kept playing somewhere, but I think it was time. My daughter was going to start kindergarten. It just seemed like the right time to stop and start the next phase of our lives. So you definitely miss the game. I miss the competitive side of it. I don't really have that in my life anymore to that degree. Just that adrenaline rush you get out of playing hockey games, in front of, 10,000 people or whatever. Like, that's kind of gone. I do miss that. You miss, the road trips with the boys. You miss being in the locker room and stuff like that. So, everybody's time comes to an end, though. Everyone knows it's coming, but it's an adjustment for sure. And I can see how some guys do have problems, and maybe they kind of resort to other things to, kind of deal with the pain or deal with it. So it's not easy. And people that have never played or have never went through that, they don't really know how it is for guys that have done something their whole lives, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's done. So it was an adjustment, but I'm not the first guy to do it, and not the last. So you deal with it and you move on. You start finding different ways to motivate yourself and different avenues that life takes you. I'm fortunate enough I get to spend a lot of time with my kids. So it's been good, but we miss it for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're jumping ahead a bit, but we got to talk about getting to the NHL.
Yep.
The New York Islanders was your first NHL team. You're able to score your first NHL goal. Just talk us through maybe that day of getting the call up to the show.
Yeah, no, I remembered I was in Bridgeport. I was watching the Islander game, and who went down? Some centerman went down, and I'm like, oh man, I think I'm next up. And so I'm sitting there, and sure enough, after the game, I get a call from
Phone rings.
Yeah, pack your bags, you're going tomorrow. And so obviously, first call, I call my parents. My parents and my wife actually at the time were together with some of our family from Saskatchewan. They were visiting my parents at my parents' house, and so once they heard the news, it was party time over there. They were hitting the sauce pretty good that night. And then my wife was like, "Okay, when's the first game?" I'm like, "Well, in a couple of days." And I'm like, "Hey, we got to fly out there." Yeah. And my dad's like, "I'm not going out there. I'll watch the game on TV." And he's like, "No, you're coming." And then so she booked the flights that night. And this family from Saskatchewan, they were supposed to stay with my parents. So my mom's like, "Hey, just lock the door. You guys can stay here, but we're leaving. We're going to Washington." Was my first game.
Oh.
So yeah, no, it was obviously a very exciting time, dream come true. Was pretty nervous for that game. I think I was pretty nervous for every game that I played.
Were you at home or on the road?
We were on the road, yeah, playing in Washington. I think I played okay that game. I remember blocking one of Owi's shots, and the boys loved that. But that one went pretty well. My second game did not go well. We were playing Vancouver at home, and I took a penalty, offensive zone penalty, and I think the second period they scored. Get out there again, take another penalty, they score.
Oh no. Geez.
And then I'm on the ice again. In the end of the second period, I'm like, don't even put me out there. And then I pick up a minus. So I'm like, and then sure enough, I'm like, that's it. That's going to be my last NHL game. They'll never throw me in again. And I'm getting like this hate messages from these New York fans. Like they're going into my DM saying, wow, you suck. Like die and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, we're not going to look at any more of those. And thank God, I think they just didn't have anyone else at the time to play. I did get in that third game, and that's when I got the goal. So thank God they gave me one more chance, because I did think after that second game I'm done. Like that was fun. That was short and sweet, but no, great experience, and just meeting these guys and just being on these, just being in the show. It was just a cool thing. Like you're going on these flights, and now you're going to these big time cities. We're not playing in Springfield anymore. We're not playing in Wilkes-Barre. We're playing in New York City. We're playing in Washington, Dallas, all these places. So it was definitely cool. But the team kind of got healthy, and I think I played okay. But same thing. It's one thing to get there. It's a complete another thing to stay there. It's it's not easy. These guys are so good. It was a great experience. So I think I got 6 games there, and then they called me up to be a Black Ace to finish the year. So, but no, overall, just amazing. Especially when you take that long road. At 27 was my first game. Where some guys are getting them at 20, 21. There was times when, like I said earlier, I was thinking about going to Europe 2 years prior. So, just a great feeling, but would have liked to stay up a little longer for sure. Those paychecks, I think I got one full paycheck, so that was nice, but it would have been nice to get a few more, that's for sure.
Was there anyone that helped you after that second game? You had a tough game. Was there talk, many vets or a coach that or anyone else from your support system that kind of helped you get through that?
Well, I remember my dad being at the game, and he was just like, that was not a good one. But he wasn't getting on me, that's for sure. I think he felt bad for me. I don't remember any play. I do remember like some interviews that I watched after the game where they would ask about maybe my penalties or whatever, and the guys were always like, it's not his fault, or that type of thing. There was never any time when one of these guys like, you suck, or what are you doing, pointing the finger. Like they're pros. There's a reason that these guys are in the NHL. It's because obviously they're great athletes, but they're unbelievable people too. Like they are great teammates. They're great guys. you don't make it that far by being a shitty teammate, right? So they're all great guys, very supportive. So yeah, it was a great experience for sure.
I think that's a big thing with even like youth sports, is being a good teammate early and learning that skill right away, for sure.
Big time. Yeah. No, and I don't know if it gets talked about enough. It's you should be happy when other guys score. You know, you should be picking each other up. Maybe if somebody has a bad game, and I don't know how you teach that, or you talk to your own kids about this, or I'm sure coaches can have some influence on how guys are. But yeah, no, like I said, you don't make it very far in team sports. You must be an amazing hockey player if you make it to the NHL and you're not a good teammate. You're pretty good. Because these guys and both the teams I played for them in Pittsburgh, these guys were all unbelievable guys. Not one bad guy. You know, not one bad thing I can say about anybody.
Well, and hopefully part of it is just getting these type of messages out there, which is obviously a big goal of what we're trying to do here. So, and then the goal. Like, I mean, goals aren't everything, obviously. I mean, it's awesome to hear you talking about having memories of blocking shots, right? Like, you're that type of player. There's so much more to the game. But we got to ask you about the goal. How was the goal for you?
Yeah, no, it was pretty much a very uncharacteristic goal that I would score. I had an okay shot, but there wasn't too many one-timers or too many snipes. I got a lot of greasy goals, tips and stuff like that. So the actual goal was kind of a snipe. So I was pretty happy with it. Like I was wide open in the slot. And then Colin McDonald, who was a teammate of mine in Bridgeport, we kind of got called up around the same time. He kind of just threw it out, and I think the funny thing is that was my one shot I got in 6 games playing with the Islanders. And so I finished the season. Accuracy. If you look on NHL stats, you look my name up there from that year, I finished on top of shooting percentage in the whole league. So one for one. Yeah,
a good stat to look up in general. So 100% shooting.
Yeah. No, it was obviously a really, really happy time. I was pretty excited.
What'd you do with the puck?
The puck is hanging up in a plaque. The Islanders, after the season, they gave me a plaque with the game sheet for both teams. They kind of put I got a goal and assist that night, so they put 2 pucks into
nice. Cool.
So it's hanging up in my basement right now. Yeah.
Nice. And who was the goalie?
Mike Smith.
Pretty big guy to snipe it over, so that's even better.
Yeah. No, and then he ended up playing for the Oilers, so I always tell my buddies, like, you see that guy out there? I sniped on him. But there's there's some, the Islanders were a pretty good team that year. There's some, John Tavares was the big one.
Was that the year they beat Florida where he wrapped it around?
No, I think overtime? this year they lost to Washington in the first round, because I do remember being Black Ace, and I think they lost in Game 7. But no, they were a solid team. So that's the other thing. When you get called up, sometimes, you get kind of charity games with teams at the end of the season. They're out of it. So I was proud of the fact that when I got called up, these were real games. They were fighting for the division with the Islanders. It wasn't just a couple throw-in games. Let's throw this guy a bone and give him just so you can say you got some NHL game. They were real games. It was a special time. But yeah, no, like I said, it's one thing to get there. It's a completely another thing to stick. These guys are really, really good.
Did you find the pressure of those games to be? I mean, it's the NHL. It's obviously the top of the pyramid. Going through your career, it sounds like you were in a lot of high pressure situations that probably prepared you very well for that moment. But did you still feel that it was sort of in another ballpark?
Oh yeah. No, I've never been that nervous in my life for anything with those games, and it really didn't even get easier. Even after I scored, you think you'd calm down a little bit. I was quite scared for a lot of it, and I'm sure that probably showed in my play. Like, you can't think like that too, right? I was kind of like, you gotta calm down. And you know what? It wasn't. I think once the game starts, I'd calm down and be fine. But those game days, I was just I was a nervous wreck. I remember some meals I couldn't even eat before the game. So I was there for 6 games. I think if you can make it past 10 games, I'm sure that would have calmed down a bit. Right. But and probably all the hate mail I got after Game 2 didn't help with my nerves either. So no, but it's like anything too. Just the longer you're there, the more comfortable you get. I'm sure that would have kind of faded away, but no, nothing really did prepare me for those games, I don't think, as far as my mental nerve system going into those games. No.
Did you find the home or away games were about the same? Was there a little more pressure being at home?
I liked playing on the road.
Yeah.
I always liked playing on the road no matter what level.
Yeah.
I felt a lot less pressure on the road. Well, except for, I think it might have been the last game I played with the Islanders was in Dallas. I wasn't supposed to play the game. So I'm getting bag skated with a couple of the hurt guys or the healthy scratches. They're not expecting me to play. I remember going back to the hotel, and usually you're going to have, the team meal, pasta and that. I'm like, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to get about 4 or 5 sushi rolls from the hotel. So I'm chowing down on sushi. I'm in the room watching TV, not taking my nap. And then sure enough, actually Doug Waite was assistant coach at the time. He's the one who called me. He's like, we had an injury playing sewer ball. You got to get down to the rink. I'm like, oh no. All right, I'll be there. I pack up my bag. I don't even know where to go in the rink. I'm walking through, I think, the front doors of Dallas Arena. I'm like, hey, I'm one of the players. They're like, yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, beat it, buddy.
Yeah. And so I somehow find my way down. I think I had enough time just to get dressed for warm up. So no, I'm a type of guy that gets to the rink early. My pregame warm up lasts probably 45 minutes. In that game, I went straight out for the pregame warm up on the ice. So body didn't feel right mentally. I knew I had 2 pounds of sushi in my stomach. So that one I definitely was nervous for as well. But that one was going okay, actually. I was playing decent. I was winning my face-offs, kind of just trying to do the little things. And then I remember they put me on the ice at the maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. I think it's a tie game. And they're like, who's doing the best on face-offs? They call up to the upstairs like, Mouillierat's doing the best on face-offs. Oh, get him out there. I'm like, okay. Jamie Ben's out there. They whip it back. Point shot goes off my skate, and then I think that might have been the first draw I lost that whole game too. But I think that might have been my last one with them too. But you know what? They were really good. I don't think they had many bad things to say from what I can remember. They said you did a fine job. We're healthy now. So you're going down. I was hoping to get back up, but never really happened. So
you mentioned Doug Waite, you're Edmonton guy, watching him growing up. Any moment in your pro career where you were maybe struck by either a player or a coach, play against Ovechkin, you got to play against some pretty talented players, but even just, having Doug Waite as your coach.
That was cool. I remember being like, hey, I'm from Edmonton and used to watch you, and then he was kind of getting into some stories about how back in those days, I think they were the only team in the league that didn't have their own plane. Right. Yeah. So he was telling me how they'd stay the night in the city, party in whatever city, and then they get on a flight with just regular people going back to Edmonton. So I remember that was funny.
That's crazy.
But starstruck, for sure. When I was with Pittsburgh the following year, I remember being in training camp. I'm sitting in the cold tub by the training room by myself, and then Sid the Kid walks in. So I'm like, oh man, this is like pretty cool. And he doesn't have to say anything, but Sid being Sid, he's like just such an unbelievable guy. Talks to me for 20 minutes, asks me about my family, where I grew up, kind of the road I took to get there, like genuinely interested in talking. And he's such a great guy like that. He's such a great ambassador for the sport. I think he knows that the kind of impact he can have on just anybody by just him being a good guy. Like he didn't have to talk to me, but he made my year. I can tell my kids and remember my parents being all pumped up. My dad was a big Sid fan, just telling them about, I talked to Sid for 20 minutes. Yeah. He was asking about you guys. Like it was pretty cool in that sense. And it just goes back to what I was saying earlier. These guys that are up there, they're just really, really good people. So that was probably the most starstruck I was with any teammate, and that's probably the biggest one of them all, right? Sid the Kid. So was an honor to play with this guy. Not much, but I did Black Ace with them the year they won the cup. So I was around with them throughout the run, and then the big party in San Jose when they did win. And Yeah, no, it's funny. Sid he doesn't leave the cup. Once he gets in the room, he's pouring champagne and calling guys up, like, Hornquist, get up here, calling everybody up, and they take a sip of the cup and give him a hug. And me and the 2 or 3, 4 black aces were kind of hanging on the back. I was like, I don't know, who's gonna call us? Sure thing. He's like, Mouillierat, get up here. I was like, yes, let's go. And I just ran up there, took a big swig. So great memory for sure. And, obviously wasn't a part of, I didn't feel like I was really a part of the team, didn't play in the games in the playoffs, but just to be around these guys that are, they worked their whole lives for this. You see guys crying after the game. They're so, so emotional. It was really cool to see that. Obviously it was a fun party, and, flew back to Pittsburgh the next day. And then Mario had a party at his house. So I was at Mario's house. He's got a big pool. Guys are jumping in the pool, in their underwear. I think they took my clothes, threw them in the woods at one point, trying to get out. I'm looking for my clothes, and someone's like, yeah, Letang threw them in the woods over there. Go get them. But it was just cool. Like I said, would have been nice to get in there and feel a part of the team, but it was super, super cool to just be around that, and and the emotion of these guys, and just the party was awesome. So that was really, really cool experience too.
The game that you played with them, was that during the middle of the season, or
no? That was a charity game. That was one
towards the end of the season.
So that was the very last game of the year. So that was the year we had like a stacked up American League team. And Sullivan was actually the coach of our Wilkes-Barre team to start the year. Yeah. Pittsburgh got off to a slow start, fired the coach. They brought up Sullivan, and they called up a lot of guys. Like Sherry was down to start the year in Wilkes, Rust, Kuhnackel, Matt Murray, Archibald. Like a lot of guys got looks that year. Kevin Porter is a guy that got called up. I wasn't one of the guys that got called up really until the very last game of the year, when it was a charity game. They didn't need the game. They were going to rest Sid and Malkin and these guys. And no, actually, it was part of my contract that year that whatever I was making, there was a $25,000 bonus if I played 0 NHL games. So it cost me $25,000 to play that last game, but I didn't care. I was so excited just to get in there again. It didn't matter at all at that time. I kind of probably had an idea that I was heading to Europe the following year, so I'm like, that was the one game that I was not shitting my pants nervous for, because I was just like, it is what it is. It's going to be my last game. Well, you never know what the playoffs or whatever, but I remember feeling very little nerves going into that game, and but yeah, that was a charity game. So, but whatever, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it.
And then you got to spend time with the cup winners.
Score sheet, right?
Yeah,
charity game. It's that's a game.
I'll take it.
It's game 82. Doesn't matter if it's what I win at Captains.
So just one question on the transition between those 2 years. So were you a free agent after your year with the Islanders over the summer?
I was a free agent. I kind of expected that they were going to offer me something because my end of the year meetings went well.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good things to say. Got into some games, did okay. So I was like, okay. But come July 1st, I didn't really hear from them. And then Pittsburgh was calling, Vancouver. They were kind of offering the same type of thing. It was a 2-way deal. Pretty decent AHL money. And then I went with Pittsburgh that year. It was probably the right decision. So, how many guys did get called up that year? Because when you think about this, you're not going to, the nicest spot, or you're not looking for that. You're looking for the best opportunity. Yeah. But for whatever reason, I obviously didn't play well enough to be one of the guys called up. And at that time too, it's the older you get, when you're not a prospect anymore, they're going to give their draft picks, those first looks. But no, I mean, they obviously made the right decisions. They took the guys and they won the cup. So it's so yeah, that's what went into that decision to go there. And then I was like, by that time now I'm 28, 29. I'm like, I kind of waited till July 1st to see what the interest would be the following year, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I ended up it was between Riga in the KHL and Luleå in the Swedish Hockey League. And since I had that late Black Ace Stanley Cup run with Pittsburgh, I didn't get home till, what was it, into July or almost, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So if I would have went the KHL route to Riga, it was a 2-week summer.
Yeah.
And if I went to Sweden, I had 4 weeks off. So it's like, let's give the body somewhat of a break. I took 4 weeks off and went to Sweden, And yeah, that's how I started out in Europe.
How'd you find that transition with the bigger ice and, different culture, different food, and obviously the family having to travel a little further? I'm assuming for Wilkes-Barre and some of these other places, there was some long drives across the country with hauling some stuff, but now that's not really an option anymore, right?
Yeah, no, it was a change for sure. As far as hockey goes, you're going back to the bigger ice. I hadn't seen big ice since college. The Swedish game itself is really, really fast. These guys are ripping around the ice. So it was, it's really skilled too. So I actually didn't have a very good year that year. I came in as kind of a guy that they were expecting to play first, second line, put up some points. And, our team didn't really, it's a really tough league to score. And if you're not getting power play points, you're not getting many points. I don't even know if the leading scorer league had a point per game that year. Very low scoring games, very intense games. And you're going back to that college schedule where it's less games, not 36, but now you're going down to, what was it, maybe somewhere around 45, 50 games as opposed to 70, 80 games. So the intensity's high. But yeah, the culture change. You go to the grocery store. I can't read Swedish. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. No translate on your phone at this time.
No. So that's a change. But no, I love playing in Sweden. It was a great league. It's one of the best leagues in the world. That's for sure. It's very skilled, very competitive. These Swedish players are, they're fast, man. They just rip around the ice. So maybe the league was a little too quick. It's faster than the American League too, from what I was used to. So didn't put up great numbers, but had a good time. Got to see Sweden. Got my first taste of Europe. Just got to travel a little bit. They have these breaks, and in Europe you have November break and a February break where you get about 5-6 days off. So all the North Americans usually go take a trip somewhere, whether it be with a couple other guys or with your family or whatever. So for the first time, got to see, a little more of the world outside of North America. So that was, all in all, was a great experience. But yeah, that's how I ended up over there.
How was it from the player coach perspective, and, receiving feedback, giving your thoughts in terms of potential language barriers or anything like that? Like, was it, difficult, or did you have coaches that spoke perfect English?
In Sweden, the coaches, they weren't great at English. So they would, when they were addressing the whole team, we had about 5 or 6 North Americans. They would speak in English, but then I think they'd kind of get a little frustrated with not being able to say the right words, and they just start going off in Swedish. And so then I'm asking maybe the guy that's beside me for some translating help. But no, it's okay. Like, all the Swedes, the players speak great English. Like they learn it at a young age in school, right? So it wasn't that tough. I think a place, if you go to Russia, that's where you run into a lot of language barriers with the coaches and stuff like that. Like, even if they're trying to explain a drill, or they're talking during a game and they're not speaking English out there. So Sweden wasn't bad. Germany, we ended up having a North American coach for the majority of the time I was out there too. So same thing. Germans all, for the most part, speak really good English. So yeah, no, it wasn't tough that way. Like I said, I think if you go to places like Russia or something like that in the KHL, that's where it becomes more of an issue. But it wasn't so bad in Sweden or Germany. Was your daughter born yet? Not until my second year in Germany. Okay. She was born out there. Both my kids were born in Straubing, Germany. Wow, yeah. Cool. So moving to Germany, was that a little bit of just sort of where the opportunity lied in the contract negotiations over the next year? And was the KHL back on the table? How did you decide on Germany next? Yeah, no, it's so the mistake I probably did make was I didn't start in the KHL when I had a chance, because that's the top league over there. It's known as the top league. And so obviously you want to go to the top league, make the most money, and then if they don't want you in that league, you go down to the Swedish league, you go down to the Swiss league or whatever. I mean, those top 3 are pretty close as far as I'm concerned from what I've seen anyways. But you want to start at the top, whereas I started maybe at the second best league and didn't have the best points in Sweden. So kind of the next league down is German league, but not far off as far as skill wise. It's a really good league. It's different. It's definitely more physical. I think the Germans play a lot more North American style than the Swedes. The Swedes, like I said, they're flying around. They don't really slow the game down a whole lot. It's kind of full speed all the time. Yeah. I got in trouble a few times in Sweden for I got suspended a couple times. I thought these guys dived quite a bit, whereas I don't think the Germans, they play a lot harder, a lot more honest game, if I'm being honest. So I think that German league suited my game a lot more, and managed to have some success. I wasn't putting up the points as much as I was earlier in my career. I'm getting into my 30s now. But coming back to just trying to be a complete player and being able to contribute in other ways. Usually the imports, there's only so many imports on each team right over there. So usually these guys are the ones that are supposed to be getting points, and I wouldn't say I ever really lit it up in any year out there, but I was doing other things that I thought I could, try to do to contribute, and ended up taking up an import spot for 5 years in the German league without putting up big numbers. And I think that's due to just being able to play other parts in the game aside from points, like I said, killing penalties, winning face-offs, blocking shots, whatever it may be, just to survive. That's what it comes down to. You're just trying to get another year, just trying to survive, just do whatever you can. And the skill definitely starts to lose you at unless you're Sidney Crosby, who's 37, he's still, point per game guy. I found towards creeping up to my mid 30s, the skill kind of goes away. Like you're thinking the game, you're like, I want to make that play. That's the play I tried to make. I just don't make it as much anymore. Or you lose a step, it's just natural. You see a lot of careers, that's usually when it starts to tail off. So the more things you can do when it's not necessarily putting up points, the longer you're going to survive in the end. So that keep coming back to that. But I think that's, I'm almost more proud of that, the way I kind of grinded those last few years, being able to do that, than I was those years I was putting up good numbers, and when the game came a little easier to me. I think I'm very proud of just being able to stay in that league for 5 years, not the conventional way, putting up 40-50 points.
That's
two
awesome.
questions. Like, were you always on a 1-year contract in Germany? Like, was there always uncertainty after the end of every year?
I was on a 1-year contract my entire career.
So so let's speak to that. Like, that's got to be pretty tough, especially when you have a new family and stuff.
Yeah.
You're married and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's tough for sure. I mean, I know one year, I think after my third year in Straubing, I had an okay year. I thought I played pretty decent. I was expecting to get a contract again. The team didn't have as much success that year, so usually that's when changes come, and usually the imports the first ones to go. And so I actually didn't get offered a contract that year after the season. And then so I went into the summer not knowing what was going to go or where I was going to end up. Wasn't really getting a whole lot of interest from, I wanted to stay in that first German league. I wasn't really getting a whole lot of interest because, again, I'm not putting up massive points. I'm getting closer to 35 every year. And so that summer, I was starting to get a little stressed out because now you got a kid. We had a house at that time. Now you're paying a mortgage, and wife was definitely more nervous than me. I kind of, for some reason, I kind of just had faith that something would come up. And sure enough, maybe a week before training camp started, I called my old GM, or my Straubing GM, and I was just like, hey, I see you haven't filled up every import spot. Just wondering, I'm maybe going to sign with this other team, but I want to be here. I love it here. You know that our family loves it here. And so we had a phone call just basically saying like, hey, I still want to be here, but if not, I'm going to go somewhere else. And then he called another guy on, I think he called the coach, who coaches and GMs don't usually talk about players like that. Coach just leaves his job with the GM. And then he called the coach, and the coach is like, I don't know what else you're looking for. This guy will do whatever you tell him to do. Yep. He's like, he's a very easy player to coach type of thing. So that's basically how I ended up signing. Yeah, like I said, a week before. So I packed up. I was on a plane to Germany within a day or two and not knowing the whole summer. So yeah, it was stressful. And the older you get, it's tougher and tougher to get these jobs. So those 1-year deals do become a little more taxing, where when I was having good years in the American League, I knew something would come up. It wasn't so stressful when you're having good years. It's obviously, it gets more stressful the older you get and when you're not producing as much as you were before. So yeah, for sure, it was stressful. But but that's part of the game. That's kind of maybe what motivated you too. I didn't take any years off. I tried not to take too many games off, right? Because this is your job, this is your livelihood. Now you're supporting not just yourself, you're supporting, a family. So, but that's part of the fun too, right? That's part of the game.
It's pretty cool too that you were being your own advocate. Like, did you still have an agent at that point?
I did, yeah. I don't know why I did, because
you're doing the work.
I'm doing all the work here. Yeah. No, I was, because I remember he ended up, after I talked to the GM and they said they were going to sign me, and then he must have notified my agent. He's like, yeah, okay, you're signing for this. I'm like, well, what did you do here?
Yeah.
Taking care of
Are you taking my 5% now still, or do I get that? So, no, actually, I don't want to chirp my agent. He was a good guy. He worked for me. You do hear about stories of some guys, maybe not caring about certain clients so much, and maybe they have too many and they just don't have time for certain guys. So, no, overall, I have nothing bad to say about any of my agents. At the end of the day, it's what you do on the ice. You should be able to earn a job one way or another.
Well, again, credit to you too. Again, you're just adapting to your environment. And that's been a really strong theme throughout the interview. Even if that means you've got to make some phone calls to get another contract, right? Like, it could have been so easy to be like, I haven't had to do this before.
Yeah.
This is not something I should have to do. And you were like, you know what? This is something I have to do now, and I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah, I just think I had nothing to lose. What's the worst that can happen? You can say, oh, sorry, we don't want you. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You already told me that a few months earlier. So, no, I just probably felt at the time I didn't have anything to lose. Why not? And I wasn't like lying or anything. I did have another contract on the table. I wasn't just bullshitting him with that. Right. But it definitely wasn't in the city that I loved Straubing. My kids were born there. We had great friends in the town, not just players on the team and wives on the team. We were there for 4 years. We got to know people in the town, the city. Yeah. We'd walk downtown, which was 2 blocks from our house, and we knew the flower lady. We knew the guy at this coffee shop. Yeah. We knew our neighbors. We had our neighbors over for dinners and beers, so we were comfortable there. So I definitely I would have played my whole career, in that one spot. We loved it so much. And a lot of guys have found that Straubing is a kind of a hidden gem. Actually, the GM, Jason Dunham's from Edmonton, and he lives out there full time. But no, it's just one of those hidden gem spots. Guys will actually take a little less money to go. It's very family friendly. They treat the wives and kids very well, which is very, obviously very important when you get to that stage in your career. Guys want to have good spots for their families, and it's becoming a very popular destination, even if it doesn't pay as much as maybe the Berlins or the Colognes or these places where it's just a different lifestyle. These guys in Berlin, some of them live 45 minutes away from each other, whereas you don't see them outside the rink. Whereas in Straubing, you're walking distance from basically everyone on your team's house. So it makes a difference for sure outside the rink.
It must have been pretty nice to finally be in one place finally for a couple of years, because you were obviously up and down quite a bit. You never really got to put roots down.
No, that was nice. I started those 3 years in Idaho, but it seemed like I was up and down. Didn't really seem like a home. And then St. John's, I did a year and a half. So other than that, everywhere else was pretty much 1 year. So it definitely was nice to have one spot. You stay in the same house for all 4 years. Again, you get to know people around. You're comfortable there, right? You get to be with the same coach for 4 years, with the same teammates for 4 years. We had some good teams too. So there's a reason that
for your family even better though. Same daycare or whatever. Activity for the kids and like I said, the kids are both born there too. So, and the wife loved it there. Everybody loved it there. It was a great spot to play. So I was very happy to get 4 years in one spot. And I did play one more year after that in Krefeld. But it wasn't the same as what we had in Straubing, that's for sure.
What was it like from an athlete's perspective or a hockey player playing through COVID? And I mean, you got the games in, but I could, obviously it affected everyone differently. How did it affect you as a hockey player?
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun at all. We actually had a really good team my second year there. I think we were third in the league was probably our best chance to win the league. It's usually the German league is usually dominated by the big boys, the Munichs, Berlin, Mannheim. They got the biggest budgets, but we had a really solid tight knit team that year. And what was it? Maybe 2 games left in the regular season. The COVID hit, so just like that, your season's canceled. We already had our playoff matchup set up, and I thought we were looking pretty good. And then you just kind of think, all right, well, by the time next season rolls around, it's going to be back to normal. And no, it wasn't back to normal. I think the schedule got delayed, if I remember right, maybe by a month or 2.
Yeah.
You're going in the rink. We had maybe 3 or 4 guys per dressing room. We had to be in other dressing rooms. We couldn't be with 5 guys or whatever it was. Obviously the masks all the time. You couldn't have get-togethers. I think you were allowed to have one other family, was the rule in Germany. One other family was allowed to visit you. You're allowed to be at their house. So socially it was tough. We weren't making as much money. We had to go on German, I think it's Kurzarbeit it was called. It's like the EI, I guess. Like we weren't, obviously the teams can't pay salaries if there's no fans. Right. And so even when we did start playing the games, there's no fans, so it's like you're going out for a practice almost. So that was different too.
Men's league,
yeah. There'd be games where a bunch of guys would get COVID, and you'd have 12. I think you had to have at least 12 players to play. And so there was a couple games that we played with 12 guys, 13 guys.
Wow.
So that was a tough year. And what did that go they went the whole season like that, even into playoffs. I think they might have started letting fans back in at the end. If I remember right. That's a few years, but that wasn't fun. No, that's not how you're supposed to, that's not how hockey's supposed to be. That's not how life's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It was tough for everybody for sure.
Well, and maybe just a little bit of a segue kind of into our last segment here. As you became the older guy in the dressing room, and I know you've shared with us a few stories, Crosby obviously being the one that really stands out, of that mentorship from the older players, the established players. How did you find that role as you started to become, the veteran guy in these last few years? Did you enjoy that part of it, kind of, being a mentor and being able to speak to your career to some of the younger players on your team?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I was ever the most vocal guy in the dressing room, like whether it be before the game or in between periods. But as far as just learning from, like you said, Sid, or some of these guys that I went through my career with, it's more about just relationships you can build. Like maybe at the start of my career, I would talk to, my 4 or 5 best buddies on the team, and, I wouldn't really take the time to talk to everybody in a day. Right. Where now towards the end, I'm like, I'm making sure I say hi to everyone, talking to the young guys, talking to the trainers, asking them, how's things going outside the rink, how's the families, it's just, and you learn that from not just guys like Sid. Like when I was coming up in the East Coast League, the older guys were doing that. It's, right. I think that's everywhere. You just want to be a good teammate at the end of the day, and just let guys know that you care. Just building relationships, and I wasn't the loudest guy, but if there was a get together, where we could maybe have a day off the next day, I was definitely one of the guys organizing, and let's have some beers over at my place, or let's go to the Irish pub or whatever, because I think that's a big thing too, is those bonds outside of the rink. And you don't necessarily have to be having beers, but just that time you spend with your teammates and with the wives, getting to know the families too. It's a big part of it when you're out in Europe, especially. That's all you have is your teammates, and the wives have their the other girlfriends and wives on the team. It's kind of, that's your new family for that 8 months or whatever. So for sure, as I got older, I made more of an effort to just talk to everybody, and if it's just, hey, what's going on, like it doesn't have to be a 20-minute conversation with every guy, but just saying hi and getting to know everybody for sure.
Well, and I think that's evident by the career that you had, right? Like obviously, like that conversation you had with your general manager there, and saying this guy will do anything, but it wasn't just on the ice, and like you've alluded to, it was also the way you handled yourself off the ice as well. So so now kind of transitioning, bringing this whole thing full circle, obviously you have some kids that are starting to get into U Sports. The first question we want to ask you is basically, imagine you're 8 years old again, knowing what you know now and having gone through the journey that you've gone through, what are some of the things that you would do the same, and what are some of the things that you would do differently?
Oh man, 8 years old.
It doesn't need a specific age, but just, you're back in your U Sports years. Is there anything that you would, let's start with the positives. Are there things that you would keep the same, that you still see tremendous value in?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of anything that I would really change. I tried to enjoy the game. There was never any points at that age or I ever wanted to not play. So the fun was always there. I don't think there's anything I would really change looking back. It's that's a tough question. I might have to think about that one. Get back to you.
Circle back.
I'm sure there's a few that I just can't think of off the top of my head. But no, I think everything kind of happens for a reason, and I think at the end of the day, like I've kind of alluded to a few times, it's just being a good teammate, being a good person. I mean, you see it at the top in any sport, any team sport, just how good these guys are as people and how good they are as teammates. So, I mean, I can't remember ever really at a young age being like a shitty teammate, but it's just at the end of the day, I think that goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Skill can only take you so far, and just being a good guy. I mean, at the end of the day, not everyone's going to make the NHL, not everyone's going to play pro hockey, but you build relationships with people. Like, we all have friends from when we were 8 years old that we still keep in touch with, right? Yeah. You're just building a bond, right? So, that's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Just everyone can be a good person. Why not be a good guy, right?
Was that something you kind of learned early, or it developed as you kept going and kept seeing more and more of
I think it more developed. Like I said, I don't think I was ever a shitty teammate or shitty guy. But I've seen guys that have, maybe been on the other side and they aren't good teammates and they haven't really made it as far as they probably could have. It's a shitty attitude doesn't get you very far in any walk of life. So, and I think that's even at Vimy, I think we try to stress that, just be good people and just be good humans at the end of the day, right?
Is that as simple as, in terms of teaching those kids, your athletes, to be, a good teammate, good person? Is it just really comes down to walking the walk?
Yeah, I mean, you got to, lead by example, but I appreciate these guys at Vimy, these kids, we load the bags for them and, they all say thank you, it's just and I think whether that's through their parents or maybe them or somebody's coaching them, like, hey, let's be good people. But just little stuff like that. And it's just, these programs do help you become better people in that sense too. You just put around coaches that are positive people, or you put around other athletes, as opposed to, whoever else you could be hanging out with that, no offense to skateboarders or whatever, but at the skate park, or, not like they're bad guys or anything, but, it's just you hang around good people and you learn how to be a good person yourself. So
totally. Maybe another way to kind of look at this too, are there any things that you're seeing? Obviously you're actively coaching minor hockey students right now. Are there any things you're seeing that have kind of changed from back when we were in that space that, maybe aren't as beneficial as some people might believe they are? So for example, for me, it's just the sheer volume of ice. Like, I just think kids are on the ice a lot more. Then there's that tipping point, right? You need your reps. Yeah. And like you mentioned through your career, even thinking back, like, hey, I maybe would have liked to have skated a little bit more in the summers, right? You can get rusty, right? We got a week off right now. Like, you're going to feel that a little bit. Yeah. But at the same time, there's that point where you start sliding down the other side of the cliff and you're skating too much. You don't have any energy. You're not getting anything out of all of that ice time. So that's one for me. But any other things that you're maybe kind of seeing in the current landscape that...
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you on that. I think, it's hard for me to say because I work in player development. It's good for me that people want to be on the ice all the time because that's how I make money too, right? But I think that they could lay off maybe, I mean, you don't have to do every spring camp. You don't have to do every, whatever it is, every single camp. But these parents, honestly, I think they think that their kid's going to fall behind. If Johnny over there is doing this camp and I don't put my kid in it, I feel like they feel like they're falling behind, where I don't, at that age, guys go up and down so fast, like their development, it changes. Guys develop at different times. But another thing, I don't know, I think the screens, it's just like, it kills me that these kids are on their phones all the time. I can't stand it. And, even my kids, they're 5 and 3, and we really try to limit screen time. Like they get to go on their iPads maybe at grandma's house or on a long road trip or something. Like, that just fries their brains, man. Like, they are different people when you take that thing away. Yeah. And so obviously they're still young. At 12, 13, they can handle it a little better, I would think, but at the same time, I don't think the amount of screen time these kids get now is good for them adults, let alone kids, so it's that's just another thing that's just completely totally different from when we grew up to now, which I don't think is the best. Well,
you kind of mentioned too, with how easily accessible content is, the kids not watching the hockey games. I'll catch the condensed game. I'll catch the highlights. Yeah. Is that a thing too, that you feel that maybe there's an oversaturation of content, whereas back in the day, if we had to watch a hockey game, the Oilers weren't on every 82 games. Right. You maybe got 3/4 of them, and then you're watching hockey Saturday night, and you probably got to either look at the paper the next day or wait for the highlights the next day to see it.
I mean, I don't blame these kids. There's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, you got your TikToks and whatever it is, I'm not trying to sound so old school, but it's just, there is a lot of distractions out there that can keep them away from not even just hockey, your studies, whatever it is, man. Just hanging out with your friends. It's like simple stuff. Like, some of these kids can't even have a conversation with them. They're 15, 16 years old. It's like, I don't think your brain's really developing at the rate it should be. I don't want to, that's rarer cases, but just the screens, it's a lot. And it's a lot of, I don't blame these kids. It's a lot of distractions. Everybody's got a phone. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting at home, I'm on my phone. My kids see that. It's kind of just taken over, right? So it's, try to limit it, I guess, but it's easier said than done. I'm a parent myself, and, they get screens when we've had enough too.
Totally.
It's just a different world from when we were kids. That's for sure.
Yeah, it could be the instant gratification almost of you get it when you want it, whereas when if you missed no other game, you weren't going to see much, right? So it's almost to bring it back to like you having to work your way through each level, like starting almost at the bottom and working yourself up. Like, that could be part of the development now, is they think, well, I want it now.
That's 100% true. I mean, it's, and like going back to what I said before, where if you aren't happy with your spot on the team, you can just leave so easily now, where you can't, it's not like where you're stuck there, you had to earn it. And same thing like what you just mentioned, it's it's just different now. So I'm not trying to say I have all the answers or anything like that, but it is a big change from what we grew up on, and it's a different world. It's kind of scary.
It's kind of for both of you, but I notice this in my coaching with golf, is if I see the kids show up early, I kind of know who wants to improve more, because I'll see some kids, they'll get ready, they'll warm up themselves, or they'll start putting or something, but then there's some kids will just be sitting on their phone. They're just almost waiting for the practice to start instead of like itching to start, kind of thing.
You can see that I was running some skates this summer with some pro guys, some NHL guys, and Olin Zellweger from Anaheim just kind of stands out to me, because you couldn't get this guy off the ice. Like, he'd be first one on the ice shooting pucks. Practice is over, we're picking up the pucks. He'd be like, hey, can I have 5-6 pucks and I'll get them to you next skate? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm out of here though. But the Zamboni would be on sometimes, and he'd be doing board rushes, man. I'm like, wow, man, this guy wants it. And it's he understands how hard it is to get there and how hard it is to stay in that league, and he wants it. And he's not going to have any regrets. At the end of the day, a guy works like that, and whether he has a 10-year career, he has a 2-year career, I'm sure it's going to be more on the 10 to 15-year side. He's a pretty hell of a player. But at least at the end of the day, he won't have any regrets looking back. He's done everything he possibly could to, follow his dream. And you see guys that don't put in that time, just like you said with these kids that are kind of just there to be there. They're just there. They do their hour-long skate, and then they're gone. They're not putting in that extra work. Like just going back to those times that I was up, like John Tavares would be on the morning skate with the healthy scratches after the original 20-minute practice is over. He'd be out for another 30 minutes doing whatever the healthies were doing.
Right.
One-timers, like Sid was the same way. He'd be on the ice 20. He'd grab one of the coaches or one of the young guys and say, I want to shoot 100 one-timers before the practice. Like these guys that are that good, there's a reason. It doesn't just happen. So if you see that in young kids, it's definitely great to see when they're doing that without having to be told to do it. It's not everybody's got that in them. So when you do see it, you appreciate it for sure.
Like, did you find as a kid even like you were always thinking about the game like almost every day kind of thing? Like I know for me, even still with golf, like even at night sometimes I'm still thinking about it like almost non-stop.
No, I for sure was. I think about games. I think about chances I'd missed or good plays I'd replay in my head. But that goes back to the point we were just talking about. There was so many less distractions to fill your thoughts with back then. I think I had an N64 with 3 games, and I'd watch hockey. Yeah. And I'd play mini sticks. I'd play street hockey with my buddies. So I'm happy that we did grow up in that time, to be honest. It was a simpler time. So I hate to keep bringing it back up to that, but it was definitely a different time, a lot less distractions, and a lot easier to focus on, whatever you were into. Yeah. There's just too much now, I think.
Well, I think the last big theme I kind of take from your story too is that you were exposed to some adversity early on, and that allowed you to have a foundation to be able to go through these different role changes, whether it was, your freshman year to your senior year in college, or being up or down and going through all these different teams. I think from what I personally see, that there's not as much of that with young kids these days, for various reasons. But one of them, back in our day, you had to show up and try out for a team, and if you didn't make the team, you got cut and you had to stay in the system. And now there's all these different spots you can go, and a lot of these kids are going almost their whole minor hockey career, if not all of it, without even going through the adversity of getting cut in a tryout.
Yeah.
So I look at that, and I mean, there's a lot of people even who have gone through adversity that would go into some of these situations that you had through your journey. And to take Taylor's quote from earlier, fold like a cheap tent, right? Like it's not easy. And, to me, kind of coming full circle on it, it really seems like you building that exposure and that ability to deal with it early on served you well later down the road. I don't know if you would agree with that or not.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, not to pull out one of the cheesiest quotes, but it's like whatever doesn't kill you kind of makes you stronger, right? And it does make you stronger in the other day. Like, and I also don't think anything worth having, if it comes easy, it's really not as sweet as if you've had to go through the adversity to get there, right? Like if everything's been given to you and you get to where you want to be, I think it tastes a lot sweeter when you reach whatever that goal is, and you've been knocked down a few times and you didn't, you picked yourself back up. It makes it a lot more sweet for me. And everything kind of happens the way it does, and it is what it is. It's life's tough, and I think I don't want to have my kids anyway just have everything given to them their whole life, because one day it's going to smack them in the face. Like it'll hit you at some point, whether it be at 10 or be at 20, whenever, so it's like you gotta go through some tough times to get to that mountaintop, right? And everything that I went through, I think it ultimately made me a better athlete, maybe a better person. So
that's awesome. Well, I think that is a great way to wrap this up, and I just want to thank you again, Kael, for coming, and we really appreciate your time being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks, Kael. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
To help support the community, please visit our website at usports.community and follow us at usportscommunity on all social media.
You can also follow and rate our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Audible. Subscribe and like our video feed on YouTube.
Links for all our platforms can be found in the show notes.
Best way to help grow the youth sports community is to comment on and share our content with your fellow parents and athletes.
This episode was produced by Nick Hussey of Hussey Multimedia, and hydration was provided by Earthwater.
The youth sports community is proudly presented by Nuance Hockey and Ma Golf.
Nuance Hockey provides detail-driven on- and off-ice development in the Edmonton area. For more information, please visit our website at nuance.hockey and follow us on social media.
Ma Golf provides elite coaching for golfers of all skill levels at the Millwoods Golf Club in Edmonton. Our apparel is provided by Bird & Barley, prairie-inspired, golf-focused. To receive 15% off your next order, please visit birdandbarley.com and use our promo code YSC15.
We look forward to you joining the community next time.